Hello, looks like we're live. Hopefully, you can all hear me. And hello to Dave, who's already commented in the chat. Bring the heat. welcome a familiar face and voice in the form of Saxius. Hello, Saxius.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be here. I'm looking forward to see John cry. It's gonna be fun for everyone but him.
It'll be nice for me to begin with. It's just the first few are very flavorful and very, very nice. But it's towards the end, it gets a bit lively.
Good.
Hello, grumpy old Slan. Oh, tell your boss that you're on the toilet or something.
just say you have an emergency meeting and then go into one of the meeting rooms, just put it on speaker and just look at Nod and take several notes and it look like you know what you're talking about. No one's going to question that.
Hello, Car. We have 5 people here at the start, and Saxius has just disappeared.
I just need to close the door.
Oh, right. Okay.
So rather than you seeing a shaky camera going all over the place, I'm just going to spare you that and just go and do it. Sit back down.
Yeah. I want to say thank you all for supporting me to the 1,000. It's I was very smiley when I saw that come up on Monday night. So it is always nice to reach those little milestones. Anyway, tonight it's not going to be a serious affair. I believe a few others might be joining us at some point. I think Elf Bait said he'd pop in, and as always, the link is in the Discord for anyone who fancies diving in. Hello, Mage's Musings. I think DK will be in at some point as well. He did say he would, but that's DK for you. In fact, here is Elf Bait now. Hello, Elf Bait. Looking very clear on the video tonight. You're not distant like you were before.
Well, it helps to actually have your camera in the right position. So actually, as I move it and get it screwed up, so. But
hello, David, and thank you. Right. It's just going to be a relaxing chat tonight where I get questions thrown at me. Saxius has pre-prepared some. If anyone else has any questions they want to throw at me, it doesn't matter what they're about, just whatever. Just it's almost an ask me anything and make me look stupid night. Nothing serious, just a bit of fun, very laid back. So chat. Ask away, whatever, mainly D&D related, preferably. So, shall we just get started? Didn't it? You've gone silent, Saxius?
Well, that's because I turned my mic on mute because I'm trying to be respectful.
How dare you?
Yeah, no. I might say something I regret.
Hello,
yeah,
Fred.
Sure.
Right. Go on then.
Like I said in Discord, it's sort of been on and off of me making this. Some of it's going to be easy, some of it's going to be all right, but we'll see how it all sort of goes along. So we'll start with something that I think is a bit easy at the very least. So the ecology of monsters is often something that you can overlook when you read through the monsters, but it's actually quite important. So let's say you roll up the random encounter of a bullet, for example. What should the DM account for? No, bullet.
No. It's French, and it will be pronounced boulette in French. E-double-T-E is never A. I will. I'm sorry, Tim Cask, but you screwed up your spelling there. Right. What should I account for with
what you account for when you roll it up for what the party consists of?
With a bullet.
With a bullet. Specifically thinking of the ecology.
The ecology. Well, I know they live underground, and I know they like to hunt and eat.
Yeah, you're on the right track there.
they got a taste for halflings or elves or something? Is that what it is?
No, you're getting warmer. You're getting warmer. I'm not telling you yes or no. You're
I'll
going
keep
in the
my
right
mouth
direction.
shut.
Thanks.
You know this one, do
Besides,
you?
I'm half wrong all the time anyway. So
It's been a while since I've read that. Shall I cheat and read? Is it in the Monster Manual? This one.
It is in the Monster Manual. You're spot on right.
I used to have that book absolutely memorized from cover to cover.
I know. See, I've used this one. I've used this one recently, and because of the ecology,
That's why you know
quite
it, then, isn't it?
Yeah, no, because the players looked at it and went, "You bastards! No, no." All right. So
Have they got a
the
special
camera where I need to be.
we're in the spectrum of what they eat.
Okay,
Now,
so what they eat.
What they eat and what they have a specific favorite taste for. It was actually something that was, as you said, mentioned by Tim Kask, that they were actually designed to target for a while.
Oh, specifically designed to target horses.
Yeah, that's one of two.
Mules.
Yeah, horses, mules. I lump them together for the sake of simplicity. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, they were first designed to go after the mules, the pack animals, the horses of the party, specifically because back in the day, Tim Kask, Gary Gygax, they were seeing that a lot of the players would simply just go, "We have mules. We're just going to throw all the loot on there. We don't have to worry about encumbrance."
So let's add a bullet to the
Exactly.
and it's like Rust Monsters with fighters, isn't it? Anyway, so it's time for my first chili. Anyway, I'm starting off with chocolate orange chili jam. This only rates at 4 on the spectrum.
Yeah,
if I can, there it is. That's quite a. I can't guarantee I'll have that much of the ones at the end.
That sounds delicious, by the way.
I must say, it is a little odd. Chocolate and chili do go well together. I think it needs a bit more zing to it. But it does only rate a 4. But put that on a nice, as we say in Britain, biscuit, as you probably say in America, cookie. Big smear of that across a cookie. I think that'd be quite nice.
It'd be probably pretty good on an American biscuit, also.
Maybe. So there we go.
all right.
Chocolate orange. See, that's not very hot. I'm starting off on the weedy stuff. Let's add DK. Right.
Hello.
Loser.
Hello, Dark Knight. Hello, Dark Knight. How are you?
The Rona is not fun. I'm getting better.
Oh yeah, you've been ill, haven't you? Yeah.
Not fun. I'm recovering, but
You do sound rough.
I'll be fine.
Good. Okay. So you got another question for me, Taxius?
Yeah, just quickly following up the other parts that the bullets or bullets like to eat are halflings, which Grand Admiral Ahab got spot on right in the chats.
I mentioned halflings, though.
You
He did.
mentioned them, but I needed you to be specific because you were going, is it halflings, mules, girls? Like you were being way
Halflings or
too
elves or something.
Yeah, exactly. No.
There's a picture.
No, see, this is why I'm neutral good and Saxius is lawful evil. Because he's like, well, you technically did this in the terms of the contract. It stipulates on paragraph 3 of subsection 4. You actually said intent, Saxius, intent.
No,
Right,
John signed it. He put me in charge. He gets exactly what he asks for.
Say sticking to the letter of it is important when there is something at stake vis-a-vis chilies.
Oh, that's true. That's fine.
Thinking of halflings because of that piece of artwork in the Monster Manual with one of them trying to get a halfling down from a tree. Anyway, next question as I get my second chili product ready.
All right.
Mexican sweet chili. This is a sauce, and it ranks up. Again, it only ranks at 4 on the scale.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Isn't it
lovely?
If only we had some flashbang. That would really set him back.
It's got a bit more zing than the chocolate orange, and that is absolutely lovely.
We lost Actress.
We do have lost Actress. That is absolutely delicious.
There you go.
Oh, there he is.
closing down my own tab.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
All right. So
Question
the following question, going back to the historical side of things, let's go way back to the roots. When was the original D&D first established? And I'm happy to go for just the year.
1974.
Spot on. You're absolutely right. Now, next one's, again, keeping it in the easier mark, given that we've already started off with a bit of a bumbling start. Now, how many types of demons are there?
Well, you've got those type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Mm-hmm. Which is exactly what I was going to ask for.
Is that
that is literally the exact specification type of demon. That is the type.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
How many
Yeah.
types of demons are there? Because there's 8 bazillion other demons too.
No,
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's exactly why I took that, because if he
It's
was going to start
specific.
going, it's exactly.
The type 6 demon, of course, being the Baylor, which was originally called the Balrog, but they had to change the name.
Yes, for
Copyright reasons.
Yeah.
Well, you can't exactly blame the Tolkien estate. They're very protective of that.
Which is a good thing in a way.
No, absolutely.
Highly recommended. Mexican sweet chili. It is a sauce you can dip things in, but it's good for basting chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder how that compares to the like Filipino sweet chili sauce.
Yeah,
but it's what I've had.
Fair enough.
All right. So it's 2 questions, 2 chilies down so far. I am rattling through the easy ones to start with, because I know the later ones are going to take a little bit of time.
Well, I don't want to jump into the next question immediately because, like I said, I've only got a few bare bones, but I do have one here that's more for the group, because I think this is more one where the question really boils down to, like, how do you interpret this ruling? Trolls regenerate, which is surprising to a lot of the players. But what is just as surprising is whether you interpret how their hit points are being brought down, whether the damage is only reduced by fire and acid, or is it can you reduce them down by normal weapons and then apply fire and acid? What's the rulings that you guys go for?
I'll let the other
damage by anything must be destroyed by acid or fire, so it doesn't come back. That's how I've always looked at the rule.
Yeah, you can damage them with other weapons. It's just that if you want it to stay gone, you have to inflict it with fire or acid.
It's the reason for why I'm asking is because if you then open up for example, the Hydra specifically states that you can do as much damage as you want with any weapon towards the body. It will just immediately regenerate it. You have to go for the heads. So when I was looking at it, I was thinking, well, since the damage is being specified for being fire, you would either have to immediately attack it with, say, a sword or an axe, followed by an attack by, let's say, a torch, to make sure that damage stays.
The way I do it is you can hit them with anything.
Yeah.
On any round where they have taken fire or acid damage, they do not regenerate. And in order to kill them, they must be reduced to 0, either with fire or burnt when at 0 or acid.
Fair enough.
That's the way I do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're now on to the ones that have actually got a bit of zing to them. So this is Rib Tickler Barbecue Sauce. This ranks 7 on the scale. Cheers. Yum, yum, yum.
No, you're going to go for more.
I know these early ones I eat quite often, so I know what they're like.
He will come to regret this decision.
Rib Tickler Barbecue Sauce is great with chicken. I love barbecue sauce with chicken, but that's got a nice chili zing to it. These 7 is a warm side of medium.
Fair enough. I'm way too much of a Scandinavian for that. So some monsters are known to react differently to the elements, but let's take a flesh golem. How would it react to fire? and how would it react to lightning?
Aren't they healed by lightning?
Yeah, that's correct.
And aren't they immune to fire?
They're immune to fire in terms of damage, yes, but it does have a reaction to them.
You know, I can't. I just remember them as being immune to fire and healed by lightning, but I can't think of what it might be in terms of. Or does it make them go berserk? No,
That's Frankenstein specifically.
because there is a berserk flesh golem.
There is that, but yeah, no, I was thinking of Frankenstein, but there is a specific one off the top of my head. But you can do some more goes if you'd like.
Anyone else fancy a go at that one?
Does it mesmerize them?
No.
Does it
does not
cause
make-
fear?
Unfortunately, no. Fear is not something that.
That was the first thing. That was the first thing I was saying. I was about to say fear, but then he said immune to fire, and I was like, why would it be afraid of it?
Unfortunately, they are still considered mindless or automatons. Therefore, fear does
Right.
not really come into their mind.
I thought the flesh golems
Right.
were one of the ones that actually had intelligence.
Has Praxis got the answer here? Slow by 50%.
Praxis is spot on right.
Really?
I didn't want to take. Yes.
He's got his monster manual at the table.
Oh, you
They're
dirty
too busy
little cheater!
standing around going. "Rah, rah."
Yeah, so their speed is slowed down. Generally, they're all slowed down, but it also has the same effect when you throw cold at them. So that's
Ginger,
That's one of the-
what's up, man?
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello, Gingerbeard.
How's it going? Sorry, I've interrupted you, Saxius. That is bad.
no. I was finishing up just to basically explain that cold is also one of the things. Exactly, Praxis has got it right. Fire or cold basically has the effect that the flesh golem will be slowed down by 50%. But for obvious reasons, I didn't ask whether it was cold. I needed to know about fire because that would throw John off and give us another reason to tell him to eat more chili.
Okay, I was rubbish for that one, so I should remember that one. Right, we're on to chili Jamato ketchup. 8 on the scale.
Oh boy. Nice chalice, by the way, Ginger.
I think Rib Tickler's got a bit more heat to that. The Rib Tickler was a 7. That's just basically tomato ketchup with chili.
Ah.
Good with a hot dog, I think. I think with that one. Right.
Does anyone
Right.
have any questions that they want to throw at John before we continue on? Like, what does it feel like to now have 1,000 people that actually think that come here and has followed you here on YouTube? 1,000 people are interested in what you have to say, John. Does that give
I
you
couldn't
imposter
get-
system?
My head was so big the other day, I couldn't get out of my out the bedroom.
I was gonna say, especially for just a talking head channel with not a lot of flash. It's a pretty good accomplishment. I mean, that's a big accomplishment.
I can only put it down to the fact that I do know that Americans have got a thing about a British accent. It doesn't matter what we say or what we look like, but I know that Americans have got a thing about a British accent.
We also
And
like to use
wait,
it, guys.
way to backhand his accomplishment, Elfbait. I mean, for just a talking head, just a...
Well, no. So, I mean, that was meant as compliment because
Right.
he's not putting a ton of stuff into it. How long has your channel been up, John?
Since last February, 17 months.
My channel, before I canned it, was up for 5-6 years, and I had 87 followers.
Oh, okay.
So, and I did the same thing, sitting in my garage talking to a camera. So I'm
Yeah.
impressed. Color me impressed.
Yeah.
Obviously, I probably am lucky having a British accent and not much of a local accent. I think that's got to help. But to be honest, I don't know either. I know I've got a slightly acidic sense of humour sometimes, and people can pick up on me being a little bit sharp with things and with a slightly tongue-in-cheek approach. But I don't know. I really-
Mage Musings has a question. He says, "Here's an easy one. In the first edition Player's Handbook, what was the malaprop used to describe the monk, and what word should have been used?
Malaprop is swapping a word named after Mrs. Malaprop in a novel. Can't think of which novel.
And the second part of that question is, what word should have been used instead?
I haven't got a clue. I really haven't got a clue.
Oops.
I know there's an error in the Dungeon Master's Guide where it says that they attack on the thieves' table when they should have said the cleric's table.
Huh.
Or is that what he's thinking of?
Musings?
Enough attention.
Well, that's we're gonna have to wait for Mage to come back and give us the answer.
He says no clue. Chug that chili.
Okay, right. Is it to do with the fact that it says they attack on the thieves' table when it should have said on the cleric's table? Because I am aware of that one. Oh no, it's under the monk. Oh, okay. Right, this one is hot smoky chili jam. This is an 8 on the scale, and I have had this before, and it is quite a lot hotter than that chili tomato ketchup. This is lovely on a sandwich, but I don't normally have it in that sort of amount.
Right.
Contains 2.6% chipotle and boot jolokia, which is ghost pepper.
As aesthetics, and they should be called ascetics. Okay. All right, that makes that actually makes that actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Not just really stylish people, but
no, because monks. I don't know why you would think so. They're monks. Monks are lame.
No, they're very flamboyant. It's like they descend from Sweden.
the land of
that's between Danes and Swedes. We have been mocking them for years because of how they dress.
That's delicious, but I don't recommend eating it by the teaspoonful.
Right.
All these kind of all the European tribals make fun of each other, but we all love each other. Kind of.
We absolutely do not like each other. Anyway, let's pick on John some more. John, you claim that you know the book and the systems ever so very well, down to the last details.
I know the basics of the mechanics enough to be able to use them and abuse them.
That's very contradictionary. I know the basics of the mechanics. So, John, I'm going to ask you something about the mechanics for the priests. Are you ready?
Go on then.
All right. What is the minimum requirements of the wisdom for a priest to not roll for the possibility of a spell failure?
13.
Spot on, my man. Spot on.
Hey. I thought it was 12. Huh.
No.
Shows what I know.
Yeah, you've got to be above average for that sort of thing. Otherwise,
that's fair.
Otherwise, you've got a 5% chance. And I've had a wonderful player who did not roll well for his wisdom, so 10%.
But just a question. Yeah. Just a question, though. I don't know the answer to this, so we can turn this into a question. We'll just say I ask for Saxius. If you do fail on a spell, is the slot fizzles? Does it fizzle?
Oh. John, tell us.
Priests? Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, they fizzle.
Oh,
it's
okay.
That's it.
The spell just fails.
Yeah, you expended it, but you did something wrong. But it's still the actions of expending out the favor with the gods. Okay. Sure, you can house rule it, but by rules, that's it.
That's how. That's fair.
Your call for divine intervention fell on deaf ears. God doesn't care.
And God is no. Not even that God didn't care. You somehow fucked up, and that made God mad. So he's like, yoink.
You just lean across the table and you say, Your prayers are very important to us. Please stay online as we connect you to the right angel.
You got caught.
Okay, I have to do that. I have to do that with Geek's cleric in my DCC game now. He just pulled out his tablet. No, because I'm playing it.
I know.
Don't make me laugh too hard.
Sorry, I will make you laugh too hard.
Oh, my head. Oh, God. Cramp in my skull. Oh, God, that hurts.
All right, so the next time I get a question wrong, anyway, it'll be that one.
Oh, that looks like a rectum ripper. That's gonna be fun.
We'll tell you a story about this one. I made myself a savory rice and put about a teaspoonful in my portion of it. Took it into work. My colleague she said to me, "Oh, that smells nice. Can I try a bit?" She dipped a teaspoon in, had 3 or 4 grains of rice, popped them in her mouth, and ran out the back door screaming.
Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
Uh-oh, indeed.
Oh, boy.
Waiting for the next time I get a question wrong. Hello, Squirrel Hermit. I'm going to say hello to a few more people.
Yeah,
Who else has popped in? Journeyman GM, hello. Captain, you're right. Doof is here. And Squirrel Hermit. And is anybody else? Anybody else have I missed out? John Kilby from my games group. Yes, you have. Have you had any of these, John? Yes, you did try one of them. Yes, you did. Grand Admiral Ahab. Did I say hello to David Serrano when he popped in? I can't remember whether I did. I might be on Doolally by the end of this stream, so I'm going to get the hellos done out of the way now. Cheers, Squirrel Hermit. All right, come on, next question. Anyone.
All right. If no one's got anything, should we give him an easy one, or should we go for one that's a little bit more crinkled?
I've got a beer in the fridge.
Give him an intermediate one, just one that's slightly harder, but not too tough.
Well, John, are you familiar with rot grubs?
Rot grubs. I've used them a few times.
Oh, lovely. So let's say that you decide that it's the right time to pilfer through the dead bodies that you find in the dungeon, and naturally you do not sanitize yourself. So rot grubs jump in. Now, what are your 2 or possibly 3 options for saving yourself from certain death?
Fire, applying flame to it. A cure disease spell.
Spot on.
And
I mean, I will admit that you are covering the 2 main ones that the book covers, but there's a third option that is completely optional for you to cover.
Can you amputate the limb?
You absolutely can amputate the limb. It's what I've encouraged my players to do when I gave them rot grubs.
What happened to my cavalier's hand?
Oh, no.
It was his shield hand, fortunately, so they just bolted his shield onto his vambrace and then went from there.
That's well done. Well, yeah, no. My players had rot grubs jumped onto one of their dogs, so immediately they went, "No, the good boy, he cannot be hurt." So they cast Enlarge on the dog to also make the rot grubs bigger enough to be seen, to then start amputating, or not amputating, but like do immediate like field surgery and get them out by literally pulling them out of the dog.
Then you have to deal with giant rot grubs.
I'd say
would you rather deal with giant rot grubs or have your friend being eaten alive?
It was about saving a good. It was about saving a good boy. He did nothing wrong.
And dogs are awesome. Dogs are awesome.
Exactly.
I know a lot of gamers have cats. Sorry, I'm not a cat person. Dogs.
I have both.
Ooh, do they fight?
Nope. They're basically brother and sister. They hang out all the time. And
my dog tried to chase next door's cat out the garden earlier today, and it was the least menacing chase you've ever seen, because she had a big cuddly toy in her mouth as she went gambolling down the garden with her tail wagging.
Yeah, there's this big pit bull next door who's all sweetness and waggy tails, and her and my dog talk across the fences all day. It's
when people say there's bad dogs, there's never bad dogs. There's bad owners.
Oh yeah.
Right. Next question. Anybody another question?
Oh, does anyone else that actually came or have any questions that they want to throw at John? First
I've got
edition or
one.
any of the likes. Go on.
I've got one because I couldn't find it earlier and I just found it now. My favorite monster in D&D is the Death Knight. So I'm going to ask John a little history about the Death Knight. I want you to name I won't say what it was, but I want you to name the item, the thing that TSR published that first released the Death Knight.
Well, I know the Death Knight was in the Fiend Folio.
Okay.
I don't know if it appeared before that.
You don't know?
I've got it in the
You
Fiend
are
Folio.
correct. It is in the Fiend Folio, but that is not the first time it was published. It was, if I remember correctly, yes, it was Dragon Magazine 76.
So if I'd have said Dragon Magazine, would I have had to get the exact edition?
Yep. I was being merciful because I could have said the year, and I could have asked for the year for the character and for the article, the actual writer of the article. But I was merciful.
Isn't
No,
the
I
Death
don't
Knight
agree with you.
like all the other monsters from Fiend Folio, from the Fiend Factory, from White Dwarf?
I think it is.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So the monsters that were compiled into that book, as far as I know, for the most part, with some exceptions that were just original for that book, were from Fiend Factory.
A lot.
Well, it's saying here that it was first put into a product was Saint Kargoth, King of the Death Knights, who first appeared in Scott Benley's Dragon article, Setting Saintly Standards in 1983.
Hang on. Hang on.
That might be a weird gray area because we could have Saint Kagoth, who's a character who is the saint of the Death Knights, but not necessarily the Death Knight as a monster itself.
Hold on. The Fiend Folio was published in 1981.
Whoa, was it? Seriously, I thought it was 80. Thought it was 84. My bad, John.
Might have been a reprint.
Might have been.
No, that's about when I picked mine up at the store.
Right. Okay, then DK is a dumbass.
No. You got hit on a technicality.
Yeah, it's fine. I get that all the time.
Technicality.
You are technically correct. The best kind of correct.
I'm still sat here with this next chili. And
well, that was my question.
You are allowed to look up questions if you wish.
Yeah, it's fine. Well, that was just my question. I spent some time on doing. You guys ask a question. Go ahead.
I know Saxius has a few prepared.
I had a few prepared.
Send DK some chili he needs to eat up. Yes.
I ain't fucking doing that shit.
He's got the Rona at the moment, so chili might help.
Anyway, we're talking of technicalities. I'm going to throw a technicality out there. When it comes to wish spells, you have to be very careful in how it is worded, which is why many players opt to say, I would like to write it down. Which is at what point, what are the, just to list some of the grammatical ways that would allow a DM to end a wish spell while the sentence continues on?
Well, I can say how I do it, but I don't know if there's an official way of doing it.
No, I'm literally speaking about the English language in this case.
I allow one verb, no punctuation, no clarifiers.
Okay.
So if you start onto another phrase, that's going to be ignored.
Right. You got it right there. Another phrase is what I was going for. Because the moment you have things like and, however, although, any words like that start stringing together two separate sentences, so to speak, that right there is what is, by the very grammatical thing, that would allow you to end the wish, because that is the full end stop. So, once again, John,
so how you would end
technicality.
How we would end a wish.
Yeah,
well, that ends it, because the moment you basically come to that point, you have to be very careful. This is to do with the rules within English, the way it was explained to me. And is something that combines multiple things.
I mean,
Well,
it's not a compound. I
Conjunction?
studied this. Conjunction, yes. It's a conjunction, yes. But there's also like clauses and subclauses, semicolons and stuff like that. It's really complicated and
Just do a
doing
massive
all that.
run on and you're okay.
Listen,
Yeah.
you just write you just write in Danish or Norwegian because we don't have grammar. We just keep on talking.
Right. You guys could do a sentence just by giving a big Danish number. That's
or you just do
a mile long.
Or you just do the Chad thing and speak like Swedish chef. It'd be perfect. It make about as much sense as anything the Germans invented. So I mean,
Ginger, shout that out for your wife to hear.
I've got a job for one of you. Roland would like us to discuss mind flayers, so I need one of you to look up a question on mind flayers to give us an excuse to get onto that topic.
How do they like their brains? Medium or rare?
Fresh.
Straight question, raw.
You got me.
Straight out the skull.
Scrambled, poached,
All right, let's get up to mind flayers here.
I mean,
Yes.
I was going to write some questions, but I thought I'd have a slow day at work, but it turned into a busy day helping out with interview stuff. So the only questions that I could write for you were like, you're a member of a party and you're a second level fighter. You're walking through a dungeon and you encounter a mind flayer. How do you show value to the team?
How do I show that?
Hey, I've used stuff I've learned at work in gaming.
I don't know about you. I will tell you how I show value to the team. I throw the wizard at the mind flayer and tell everyone else to run. He's got 18 intelligence. That'll be a nice snack.
When were mind flayers first described as illithids?
Ooh, that's a.
Yeah, well, that's also when they start bringing in like aboleths and the Grail, and they start they brought the whole like mythos of the Cthulhian together, and they had to go to lump them
I'm
together.
going to say, would it have been in the D modules, perhaps, when they started talking about the Underdark and possibly D2 or D3? I think it was what D3. I would have thought.
I don't know. I can't even tell you when I just learned that the two were different. It's like in my memory they've always been interchangeable.
Yeah,
Well,
I found the answer.
Doesn't know the answer. And in response to what Roland asked, in terms of mind flayers, I absolutely love them. I think they are superb, and I think they've been brutally overused and normalized in the same way that Drow have by modern adventures. I played in Dragon Heist, and one of the first encounters you have in there, your first or second level, and you wander into this sewer, and there's a mind flayer, and he just throws an intellect devour at you, gets up and walks out. It's like, no, a mind flayer would not do that. He would stand up, psionic blast the hell out of you, consume your brains, and then do it to the rest of the city as well. They wouldn't just be in the sewers.
Well, I know there's a particularly obsequious mind flayer who's part of the criminal underground in Waterdeep, though.
I saw a YouTuber talk about this where his party deviated and split up for the Yawning Portal and for the Mind Flayer. They went through the back entrance by blowing a hole in the back and went straight to the Mind Flayer without realizing it. So he allegedly swapped the stats for a swashbuckler with the Mind Flayer, and they lived. But apparently, like, the whole module is set up so that the Mind Flayer escapes, so it's a railroad. It didn't account for things like the players getting a keg of dynamite and blowing a hole in the back of the lair.
Magus Musings has asked the question. Magus Musings has asked the question: how many default psionic point does a mind flayer begin with? It's about 300.
What?
No, it's like it's around that area.
I need to step away for a second.
That's fine. It's like 240. So psionic ability is 241 to 340, and the DM just picks a number between those two.
So I've said about 300. I'm right in the middle.
You're spot on in the middle, which is right. That's what you should be expecting.
It's going well, Hungar. I haven't had to eat my particularly hot chili yet because I keep getting. I've got a few questions right.
Yeah.
I've had the
Right.
5 ones that I can normally bear. I'm into the ones that
Why
are
would you
hot.
never go swimming with an aboleth?
Because I want to live.
I'm not even talking
I wanna
about
live.
the tentacles. I'm not talking about how it would numb you. I'm just talking, why would you never go swimming with aboleths and go over and, smooth those scaly your body?
Get into that mucus cloud.
Oh,
So, of
shut up,
course
Ginger, you fucking...
Of course, the Slaneshiite would say this. Of course, he would ask this.
They can basically turn your skin into a membrane where if you then come out of the water, it dries out.
Yes.
We had a situation where my party had a portable hole and had to fill a portable hole with water and have a character standing in the portable hole all the way back to town.
Yeah.
Actually, I almost had a domestic dispute with my wife this week because she wants to like paint all the minis to do like the 5e monster manual.
Go on.
So she ordered an aboleth off Etsy, and it came, and it was on like a 28mm base. I was like, that's not the proper size for an aboleth, and we got into a big argument about how big aboleths should be. It says 20 feet long in the monster manual. I think that's too small. I was remembering Underdark the Night Below because it gives you in the handouts like paper tokens. But I was misremembering that the big aboleth token is actually for the blood savant, which is like a special aboleth, which is twice as big.
Right. So she was right and you were wrong.
Yeah, but they should be bigger. It makes no sense that they're only 20 feet long.
Dude,
I'd
40,
love to get into that argument with my missus. She's not interested.
Dude, giant squids in real life are only 30 feet long. That's insane. Those things are huge. I'm 6'5". That is more than 3 of me. Like, dude, it's not big enough. It's massive, man.
I'm sorry, it's still not big enough. We need.
It's not a god. Get over it. Get over it. It's not a god.
I'm sorry.
They came pre-gods.
Aboleths.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they think they're gods.
They think they're gods.
They've been around since before the gods.
Yeah,
their lore
exactly.
Let me put this in perspective. If there's anything bigger than their ego, they go hunting for it.
Yep. Their whole thing is that they're pissed off that other things exist in the world. So
yeah, they're literally incels. That's it. That's all it is. It's like they can just fuck off. I don't care.
Oh no!
Which psionic attack is more devastating? Mind Flayer's Psionic Blast or your DM running you through the Forest Oracle?
Don't think I want to know the answer to that one.
It all depends on how long the DM has spent rewriting the Forest Oracle. If he's running, if the DM is running it through as is, that is the most painful experience on Earth. I'd rather have rock grubs than that.
True.
I'd rather have rock grubs down my trousers than that.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
Geek, by the way, I don't know if, because I could be wrong again, but I decided to Google it on the when was Illithid first used. Apparently, you were close. It was D1, Descent into the Depths, 1978. No. The word Mind Flayer was first used in a monster brief and appeared in Strategic Review number 1, 1975, and then Illithid was 78 in D1. So you weren't too far off.
They said in the D modules. So.
Yeah, no, that's good enough for me. As far as I'm concerned, that is good enough for me.
I thought it'd be more likely D2 or D3, but if it was in D1.
You were close enough. It's fine. You were close enough.
I like playing with Mind Flayers, actually, and variations on them in games. I think they've done a lot of interesting stuff over the years in Dragon Magazine and stuff with them, too.
I think they're brilliant, but as long as they are kept alien.
Yep.
They've got to be kept alien. I don't like them being normalized in the way the Forgotten Realms have normalized them.
Yeah.
So Hungar, I'm just curious. When you say Sturges are the worst monster, do you mean like worst as in they're bad as in they're pathetic, or worse as in they're horrifying to fight against? Like,
I
what
think
do
it's
you mean
going to
by
be
that?
horrifying. They're typically used against low-level parties, and they hit as 4-hit dice creatures, I believe, or they get +4 to hit, something like that.
Yeah, even in
Very-
5th edition, they're one of those ones that'll kill.
Mm. In Aaron's OSC game, my cleric got bushwhacked by like 5 or 6 of them, and I got dropped to like 2 hit points, and I was like, I'm tapping out. I'm gonna send in my fighter instead. Bye.
They suck
Seems
your
like
blood.
5th level up. Yes, they do. Horrible to fight against the little. Yeah, they are horrible.
Ooh, what is the title for a first-level thief? Oh, God.
Oh,
I'm
I feel
gonna
like
say- I'm going to say footpad, but I'm probably wrong.
I'll look this up actually.
My guess would have been cut purse, but
Yeah,
I would have
gone
guessed
with that.
pickpocket. I would have gone with
Ooh,
pickpocket.
yeah, that's a good candidate too.
I'll pull up AD&D just 1 second.
We were just talking about this the other day about like creating new classes is a thesaurus time for coming up with all the
Apprentice.
synonyms for the same thing.
Do. 1 sec, my PDF is really slow for some reason.
Does it mean I'm going to eat chili?
Evidently, it's an apprentice rogue.
Yeah,
No way. That's lame.
rogue apprentice.
At that point, you don't even have a specialty like cutting purses or picking pockets or padding feet.
I know footpad's a low.
Guys, we're approaching this all wrong. You're just the intern amongst the thieves. That's why it says apprentice.
You're a rogue apprentice. Yeah, it's rogue apprentice.
I got
Then
level 2
footpad, then cut purse.
So
You
you're
don't
spending
become-
time fetching coffee for
There
the
we
real
go.
thieves.
Yeah.
There it is. There it is.
Finally, this one goes down the hatch then. Carolina wing sauce, 9 out of 10 on the scale.
Reapers are nothing to mess with.
Oh God, we already gone to the Reapers.
There's
Oh,
some
boy.
lines.
Some lines we do not cross. We push other people over that. That's why we have John here.
Not sure this has got. No, it's not a Carolina Reaper. It's a Carolina sauce. So it's.
Okay, so a Carolina
contain-
barbecue style.
Oh, it does contain a bit of Reaper. It's mostly habaneros.
Oh, okay.
11.1% habanero, 0.75% Carolina Reaper.
So it just sounds scarier than it is.
I have another question for you, John. At what
It's quite bitter. That's quite bitter.
intelligence? At what intelligence is an assassin capable of learning an alignment language?
An extra alignment language.
An alignment language.
But this is really for like first edition raw AD&D though, because alignment languages is such a weird thing.
Wonderful, beautiful, amazing, perfect idea that should be used in every game ever, and I will fight and die on that hill.
Listen, you
I'm
can
going
find
to
that.
say 13.
Nope. 15
16.
or more. It's 14.
How much?
It's 15. It's 15.
15.
15 or more.
Oh,
Yep.
oh,
At
Right,
18,
so
you get 4. At 18, you get 4.
okay. Right.
Yep.
We are now on to Reaper's Revenge. This one contains 2% Carolina Reaper chili.
I was actually surprised. I thought you'd get that one.
I've only ever DM'd for one assassin.
Really? That actually surprises me.
Worst assassin I ever had in any campaign I played in was there was one who also was psionic.
Psionic? Oh, God.
Psionic assassin.
Mm,
Ooh.
10. Ooh.
That's
Oh,
very
we feel...
sweet. That's very, very sweet. But it's
Yeah.
starting to bite.
Yeah, it's a good old sweet and bitch.
I think
Straight switch.
we're starting to see your dome is starting to glow there, John. You're starting to
Yes,
shine.
It's starting to glisten. Yes, yes, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There it is. There it is.
Okay.
Anyone else have a question?
Name the 3 types of Nagas that can be found.
Spirit, Guardian, Water.
Spot on.
Naga chilies as well.
Yeah.
What about the Bone Naga?
That's in
Yeah,
later editions. The Bone
That's in
Naga came
5e.
later.
That's probably like 3rd edition onwards.
Yeah,
I know
I
it's in
think so.
5e.
Like I'm starting to think
Might
of
have been
like,
Might have been 2nd edition. Might have been.
yeah, but they were considered a construct, like a golem. for that.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah,
Or
they're
fire.
undead created from Nagas.
Yeah. Here we go.
Ah.
And they've been around since
right.
2nd edition. So
Yeah.
That was
Necrophidius.
2nd edition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Which is why 2nd edition is the best edition.
Yeah, man.
Sure it is.
The Necrophidius.
yeah, the
Another
Necrophidius.
another fiend folio monster.
Yep.
There was a Necrophidius in UK 5 and in UK 2 in the UK series, like Fiend Folio creatures. Not UK 2. Actually, was it UK 2? I think it might have been one in UK 1. Yeah, UK.
Right.
No, UK 5 and UK 2.
Does it include in this one?
Name the one lawful good monster in the Fiend Folio. Who did the cover art of Dragon Magazine issue 55? Oh, here they come now. Here they come now.
I don't
Ones.
see. It's weird for me. I'm not seeing though. I guess see who did the. Oh, there they are. For some reason, it wasn't coming up on mine.
Squall Hermits. I'm going to say
Latency.
Errol. Was that Errol Otis's cover? And the one lawful good monster in Fiend Folio. Oh Jesus!
Was it like those grey planner guys with the massive wanky hands?
Don't give him ideas. Don't give him ideas. He has to guess.
I know this one.
Winter, you've got some really creative and vivid descriptions for when you describe the monster. So this weird alien creature comes at you with its wanky fingers.
Yeah.
It's what? It's what fingers?
Wanky.
I've got Squirrel Hermit's answer correct for that was the Errol Otis one. Sorry,
Okay.
my concentration is beginning to waver because my mouth's on fire.
I don't have to.
We're doing. For some
It's
reason, the
omen.
chat's doing a little dance.
Omen
It's spurting out.
It's the most famous. Oh, the most famous. Oh, the
because-
flump. The flump. Yes,
Mm.
Yep.
The
flump.
flump.
Yes.
There's a
So-
great low-level adventure in Dragon. It's a 3.5 one, but you can adapt it easy. That is good for. You could even insert it as like a precursor to Saltmarsh. It's called Box Full of Flump, and it's it's designed as a totally introductory nautical adventure. It involves like saving some flumps that are being. There's a guy, weird mystery.
Guys,
in
I'll be
there.
right back.
Guy's
No.
using them to stink out mines so he can buy the mines for a song and a prayer from the people who have had their mines fouled. So,
So I have to really ask because I have not used the flump, but every time I hear it mentioned, people just go on and on about like how they are just an absolute joke and they're abused and people will take them and like tie them to their shoes so they can levitate. It's like, why? Does anyone actually know why it's done this way?
the flump, it for me has always been that monster that was put in there. It's an Underdark creature. It's like it's like the only good thing in the Underdark, quote unquote. But it's designed to look all eldritch and horrible. It's a like floating mushroom
Right.
with
Yeah,
eye
yeah.
stalks and spikes and tentacles, and you're supposed to be encountering it and then
What?
ultimately get like an ally or something down there.
What? How are there two of me? What the hell?
That's why I was looking horrified. We appear to have two dark knights.
Yeah, I really think the flump is in there as just kind of a head, just kind of a
Fair enough.
a trick for the players. They're going to see this tentacly floaty thing in the darkness and think, "Oh my god, another horrible creature," and it
John.
could be a source of information.
Grumpy old Slang's
Thanks.
got a question there for me. There are rule suggestions to adapt AD&D characters to two other game systems. What are they? One is Boot Hill. The other, I believe, is Gamma World.
Yeah, Gamma World was 1E. That makes sense.
I have another question though. This is for you, John. Did you get that hot
Okay.
sauce ready, boy?
Okay.
We all have questions about, I just have a question for you. What is the best way to implement Method 5 in your AD&D game?
The best way to implement method 5 is to throw it in the bin and set fire to the contents of the bin.
I've been waiting all night for that reaction, and I waited for...
Or you bend DK over something and ram it up his backside. It is
Yes!
it is the... Yeah. Method 5 is rubbish. I'm right, so I don't have to eat any of this yet. I'm just going to show you what the next one is.
John.
There we go. That's the next one.
Oh. Appropriate given John's reaction.
Let me read this one out to you. Take 3 ghost pepper pods. Pour a searingly hot ghost pepper and bird's eye chili jam over them. Top with ghost pepper flake and leave to mature.
Oh, Almanal wishes to join. Does he have permission?
Yeah, more the merrier. More the merrier. But Graham arriving as well now. And
Nice.
who created the hook?
I've been holding my tongue the whole time for that question, and I'm so glad I did.
The hook horror appeared in, I believe it appeared in the Fiend Folio, but in terms of the actual monster, I believe it was somebody who ended up being quite famous. I'm going to say Chris Perkins. I'm probably wrong. Hello, Graham.
List on
There it
Hello
is.
there.
Yes. Graham, you've arrived at the fun time.
Great. How's it going?
I'm absolutely fine. I've just got the last 2 chilies to go. Okay, so I've got to eat one of them now because I've got a question wrong. Okay, so this is the Podfather. This contains 7% chili, being a mixture of bird's eye and boot jalokia, which is ghost chili. And it's also it's all poured over ghost chili pods and flakes. Right,
Oh, God. That's going to suck.
Oh, I'm on a 6-person limit at the moment. So
If you want, I can dip out if you want.
It's cool. I can drop out before my wife kills me. It's nice to have dropped in and made a comment about
Okay,
throwing
thank you.
my hands.
Ginger.
And how
It's great to see you, man.
Cheers, Gingerbread.
Bye.
God,
Are we
my
about to-
fucking head hurts.
Are we about to see Omanel's face?
Mayhaps.
He's British, the creator of the hook horror. Gingerbeard has dropped out, so Omanel, do try again. There we go. Oh,
Ta-da!
Yes, I'm a real person.
British.
I'm a real boy.
I know. Well, I just came out from 100-degree heat, so right now I'm trying to cool down here. So
All right. While I think about the British person who might have created a hook horror, here goes with the Podfather. Oh, you cheeky bugger!
Yeah, the look on John's face, just like a second beforehand, he looked like I have made a terrible mistake.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
You ready to continue?
well, you know what? I'm kind of surprised I got you almost stumped on the floor. I was like, "This is a super easy question," and you're just like, "What? Oh, come on!"
As soon as you said the famous one from Food Feed Value, that was of course. Gentleman GM, yes, I do give up. I've already eaten my chili. Graham Morris was British as well. Maybe. No, he'd create something better than a hook horror.
Ian
Oh,
Livington.
If you shake the
Ian
hand,
Livingston. Ian, if it is Ian Livingston, I do apologise because he was my boss.
Really?
Oh, it was Ian Livingston. Oh God! My old boss at work, he created the hook horror. Oh God! Oh,
Really?
sorry, Ian.
Wah, wah. What were we saying, Saxius?
I was just going to ask, if you shake the hand of a vampire, how many levels do you lose?
Depends if the vampire wants you to lose levels or not. The vampire can
When
cause
do
you
they
to drain
go-
2 levels.
Yeah.
But they can choose whether to use that or not. It's 2 levels.
I thought that they had to bite you to drain levels, and I thought it was only 1.
Touch.
Nah.
It's touch.
It's
Listen,
on
there's no-
touch.
It's on touch, which is why, like, when they come at you flailing with both hands, you're gonna be shit scared.
It's 2 levels per hit.
I don't argue that.
Well, see, and this is why I hated Level Drain, just because I said no, especially after reading Bram Stoker's Dracula.
That's
Oh,
fair enough.
I'm never
Aquatic
throwing a
gargoyles.
vampire at my party again, ever.
Oh, I am.
I believe
Yeah.
aquatic gargoyles are copoacinth. Is that right? Coalinth, aquatic hobgoblins, lacedons are aquatic ghouls, and copoacinth, I believe, are aquatic gargoyles. Am I right or wrong?
Correct. He said correct.
I always find
Yes.
those aquatic versions weird taxonomic style names.
Yeah, I agree. Mage Musings, D&D vampires ain't no glittering fools. I would completely agree to that. Even in 5e, they're pretty gnarly. They're pretty gnarly for 5e standards, but they are still pretty weak. They should have been way stronger.
I haven't had a drink of anything yet at all. Doing this the hard way.
That is actually very impressive.
Yeah.
So
That
what
is the last
di-
one.
Oh,
Oh, no.
Chili Jam.
And
Are
insa-
you allowed to make that?
An insanely hot and fruity Carolina Reaper jam poured over whole Reaper pods and flake, then capped with even more Reaper flake. This will infuse and intensify in both flavor and heat over time.
Ooh.
Why do you hate yourself? Why?
I use it
Why
to
do you
cook
hate
with.
yourself?
The occasional half teaspoonful in the chili to cook with. I'm halfway down the jar, and I've had that for 2.5 years. So
Means it's just
it's
2.5
had
years
plenty-
stronger.
Yes.
John makes it to 1,000, and then this will be his last stream. Apparently, after
It'll be his last day on Earth.
that's right.
It'll be a
Party, I made
Viking
it.
funeral. His house will burn down in a Viking funeral.
It
It was glorious, sir.
Lost. That's
I salute you, John. We hardly knew ye.
Okay, I've got to get another question wrong first. Come on then.
What is the preferred dietary of Sorns?
The preferred
what?
one?
The preferred dietary of Sorn. Xorn.
Oh yeah.
What
they
does
eat,
Zorns eat?
Gems and minerals. Things.
All right, good.
Big fan of gems.
What if we're going to do that? What's the preferred thing for boulet?
Oh,
Well, we've already had that
Done that.
question.
We've already
Oh,
done
okay.
that. We already
I've
did
already
that one.
done that.
Already done that one.
I've already had to
Oh,
correct Tim Kask on that because there's no way if it was French to be pronounced boulet, it'd be boulet. Because E-T-E is always et. So that's me, people.
Toilet.
Either
But
way,
yes,
it's just
horses and halflings, we had that one.
Yep. All right. Trying to think of like anything else I can think of off the top of my head here. Anything I can quickly find.
Well, the problem that I have with it is that I don't have the book out, but it's kind of the things of going. Boy, there's some weird things you can pull out of the Dungeon Master's Guide, as far as the, what does this spell do, or what was it? Flesh to, well, I'm sorry, stone to flesh.
Yeah.
Odd bits, but Mage's Musings has got a good question for me here. If you roll a 5 for one of your starting attributes, what are your only 6 class options? Okay, if you roll a 5 for strength, you can only be a magic user. If If you roll a 5 for intelligence, you can only be a fighter. If you roll a 5 for wisdom, you can only be a thief. If you roll a 5 for dexterity, you can only be a cleric. 5 for constitution, you can only be an illusionist, which is weird because illusionists need high intelligence and dexterity. So if you want to get a re-roll, slap that 5 on constitution. And if you roll a 5 for charisma, assassin. Lee Waldron, the name of the chief in the steading was Nosnra. It was Anson backwards.
I'm gonna have a fun one. Let's see if you can get and I don't know, to be fair on this. What level was John Carter of Mars?
But I don't even know who John Carter of Mars is.
Oh, okay. Because years ago, and I don't remember exactly which, I don't know if it was in a Dragon magazine or one of them, they would put down famous characters from fiction. And John Carter of Mars was Edgar Rice Burroughs. And so for the Martian, and they had, since you don't know who it is, I don't think that's a fair question then.
No.
But it was, I think he was 36th level fighter.
Oh, which was maximum level in basically.
There's been quite a bit of stuff pulled from John Carter and the Burroughs stuff. I know the Girolon is basically the big four-armed. No, yeah, the Girolon is the big four-armed gorilla apes from there and stuff. And
I will say now I'm not very well read when it comes to fiction because since the advent of the internet, I've not been able to concentrate.
Well, to be fair, I read John Carter of Mars, and I had a friend give it to me on my 10th birthday, of which I punched him in the stomach because he screwed up my cake. But anyway, that was.
I have started listening to
He
audio
what?
books, but
Your cake?
I think Lamia have claws because they are half woman, half clawed beast, lion type creature.
Which is not mythologically accurate, but whatever.
Hang on, Lamia. Yeah. No, they've got to be.
They're snakes. They're snakes.
No, not in D&D.
Yeah, no, not in D&D, but in the myths, she's half.
Oh,
snake.
they have both.
That is
they corrected that in D&D by making the Lamia noble in the Fiend Folio, which has a snake body.
Yeah, the Lamia nobles are the snake versions. The rest are what's it called? Well, I remember this having claws.
They basically they were like lion centaurs basically. They had
Basically,
like the lower. Yeah,
I like the one from Lee. What are their attack routines and damage of trolls?
Well, it's claw bite, and it's 1d4 plus 4, 1d4 plus 4, 2d6. Am I close?
that's brutal.
I'm gonna bring one up that if you guys haven't. What was the maximum hit points of any statted monster or NPC or anything else in the first 4 hardback book?
In the
still talking
first
first
core
edition.
hardback book, which was
So like the hit point cap.
that'll be the monster manual, the first monster manual. And it's going to be Demogorgon with 200 hit points.
Okay, but I'm also including the deities and demigods.
Oh, right. Okay. There were some deities in there with 400 hit points. There were quite a few with 400 hit points.
Yeah.
But there was also some things in there which were pretty much infinite because you couldn't really damage them, such as the questing beast, I believe. It didn't even have stats in there. It was just pictured.
It wasn't
Doesn't
just because it had because they had the knight from the King Arthur.
Monty Python.
Talk about it.
Yeah, they have like a thing in there on him on the questing beast, but I think it's like as soon as you catch up to it, it gets away or something like that. You can never catch
never be
it.
caught.
Yeah.
So which
Didn't
part
they
of the
stack
claw?
King Arthur?
Which part of the claw bite did I get wrong? Was it the bite? word for
Or
lead.
is the claws at a higher damage? 'Cause that's what I keep on thinking, that it's a D6 or a D8.
Or is it a
You've got
D6 plus 4, the claws?
Well, it's either that, because I keep on thinking of the strength. Because I keep on thinking that they've got additional damage from their strength.
I don't
So
think
it'd
they
be like
have. I know they're very solid
D-
depth, very.
So 5 to 8, 5 to 8, 2 to 12. So you got the bite right.
Yeah.
That's what that's what I said. I said D4 plus 4, D4 plus 4, 2D6, which is
I might have misheard it.
I think. Yeah. No. I think Geek did say that. Yeah.
yeah. That's what I
Someone
said.
we've got it on
Cheers, Captain.
online
Chili
anyway,
Jam.
so someone can go back and check the exact wording.
Yeah. I'll check. One
Yeah.
sec.
For some reason, I keep on thinking that he said 1d4 plus 1.
No, I
One
thought
D4 plus 4. D4 plus 4, D4 plus 4, 2D6.
That might have just been my connection.
It might be my connection.
No, you're the host. You don't take the blame for this.
for what?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, you guys are talking about this, and all I can think is, well, I was trying to turn off my sound as I'm trying to look for stuff online. Just to make sure that I can, verify what's going on as well.
Yeah. I'm not taking it too overly serious. It's all just fun and games.
It's all fun and games until he has to take a bite, and then.
Well, still fun and games for us.
Well, that's true.
I'm all right, mate. That last one, that Podfather has now calmed down. I am just about ready to try my Carolina Reaper.
I'm trying to think if there are some monsters. Oh, what was the? No, because some of these I'm trying to make sure they're not too easy. So I'm trying to think of what some of the things are in there.
Infravision. Does it? What if you are you're underground? Your character has infravision.
Yep.
What do you need to take into account to avoid having your sight affected or spoiled?
You've got to make sure there's no heat source or anywhere near you, so you can't be anywhere near a lantern or a torch.
Okay, yeah, I'll take that. Because it specifically says all infravision is spoiled if a light source is shedded, illuminating upon the creature, possessing the infrared sight capability. Which I'm translating that as just like if you see the light or if the light is anywhere near you, that impacts you.
I'm translating that as
You've got to get yourself away from the a lantern or a torch.
Mm.
Yeah, that's why parties full of demi-humans are always complaining about the human characters. So
The thing is, a party full of demi-humans, how do they survive underground when all they can see underground really is heat?
yeah,
So
it's so vague too.
you've got to have some sort of light source to be able to not fall over the rocks because they don't generate heat.
A creative DM is.
skeletons.
I'm sorry. As I say, a creative DM is going to capitalize on that too. Even in 5th edition, where everybody has dark vision, it's like it even says it doesn't give detail. It's all black and white and shades of gray. It's like, okay, you can see a gray wall. What you can't see is the camouflage monster against that wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can see a vague humanoid shape walking down the corridor. You can't is it your friend? Is it a monster?
You can also play with that too. You see a vague humanoid shape ahead of you. It's just a stalagmite.
Yeah.
Or the curvature of the wall. I mean, you can really mess with people on that.
Or anything that blocking a heat source is not going to show up.
Yeah, and I also think that, like, let's be frank, if someone casts like any kind of powerful light spell while you're in pitch black, like that's gonna hurt. That will blind you. So I'd probably say, everyone make a Constitution saving throw.
I have to imagine those vision types really seemed a lot more amazing and fantastic before we had technology that did that. It's like
Yeah,
Yeah, because like
infrared
we've
is
seen it.
infrared, and even like thermograph is everywhere now. So
Well,
the
I mean,
question-
even like to get to the thermograph, we've seen this tons of times in films where people wearing night vision, and one guy turns on the lights while the
Oh,
guy's
yeah.
looking through night vision goggles. He goes like, "Ah, fuck!"
yeah,
Well,
So-
I mean, are you
Go on.
looking at forward-looking infrared, in which I've seen black and white, so it's the near infrared, or you get the full color spectrum. That you'll get for some of the
active
clear.
and passive.
Yep.
And then you have ultrasonic vision nowadays, where you can just
So here's the question, which is the speaking of vision, and we'll see if this is too obscure for a game. Did you ever play Star Frontiers, John?
Did you ever play what?
Then I'll leave it alone then.
now I'm curious what you're going to say, because that was one of my jams.
Well, because what the question was is what spectrum did the Draylocytes see in?
Oh yeah.
And they were black and white. They
Yeah.
they had no color vision. But that's one of those things I kind of liked, and that I wish they would do more in D&D, is really separate and say, oh, okay, if you're human, you can see the full color spectrum, but if you're this creature, you can't. And I thought that would be interesting, but most of them aren't willing to do it anyway. So.
That's always been the case for using a torch or natural light, anyways. Because even with infrared, even with infravision and ultravision in the old school games, there wasn't that detail. You're not going to be able to. You won't see the script drawn on the wall in chalk if you're just using infravision or ultravision.
of course not.
Unless it's radioactive chalk, and then the ultravision.
I think you're
don't
going to have
remember
other
any
problems then.
D&D. Oh. Yes. Lee has checked, and apparently they changed the trolls damage in second edition. So he was thinking of second edition, whereas I was correct when talking about first edition. There we go. I didn't never notice that. One thing about vision, I don't remember AD&D ever describing ultravision properly in any of the core books.
It just says that it detects ultraviolet light. It's, I think, the only thing that it ever said.
I always looked at this, it was supposed to be from starlight, so it didn't work underground. That's the way that I understood it.
I just replaced a lot of it and just said, okay, it's low light vision from third edition or 3.5. You need stars or this moon or something like that, and then you see like it's daylight, just to make it simpler. Because
But ultravision was the thing that they gave to the creatures in the Underdark, though. Usually was like the really deep. It was like advanced infravision.
Yeah, like I didn't have any problem just saying like it's dark vision, but it's 120 feet out that it gives you pure, like, proper vision.
Well, that's all they did in fifth edition. Now it's changed the distance of dark vision.
Yeah, but I've just done that because to me it just makes the game simpler, and then that way, rather than having
it's that weird thing in like AD&D where they were really fantastic at times, but every so often you get a mini lesson in science or physics, like the description of fireball.
Okay, I've got to do here the core player's handbook multi-class options unique to the half elf. Mage cleric and fighter mage cleric.
What was the first one? Mage cleric and fighter mage cleric?
And maybe fighter cleric as well. Are they one? Oh no, half. I'm sure half orcs can be fighter clerics. Pretty sure of it.
They can be
mage cleric and fighter mage cleric. I'm going to go for
fighter and cleric.
Well, this is something I just saw when I was rereading it, and the question is: a fighter, magic user, thief. What armor can they use?
a fighter.
Fighter, magic user, thief. What armor can they use?
Well, if they want, the way it's all written, they can cast spells wearing any armor, fight wearing any armor, but only use thief skills in leather armor. So it all depends on whether they want to use their thief skills or not.
Well, I think, and to be fair, we're going to have to look this up. I think when I reread it recently, it said that if you have a thief, you're only allowed to use thief armor if you're a multi-class.
It does say, I'm pretty sure it says something along the lines of a multi-class thief can only employ thief abilities when in suitable armor.
I'll go look at
limited to thief armor for those abilities. And then in Unearthed Arcana, they opened it up to give thieves more armor types.
I think that tracks because I seem to remember multi-class characters having to ditch their chainmail and stuff when they wanted to go do thiefy things.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
But I could have sworn, and this comes back to when we were discussing it, is rules that we got wrong. And I'm trying to
Yes.
I'll see if it's in there. But like I said, I could be off on it, but I could have sworn that it had it, that it said that you're only allowed to use, if you're a thief, you're only allowed to use thief armor for if you're multi-class.
I've got votes in my camp from Mage's Musings and Squirrel Hermit at the moment. Good lads.
Where is multi-classing? It's in the DMG or in the PHP?
It's the player's
Can't
handbook.
find it.
If you're going for 1
Thank you. Right.
Right. Gentlemen, it has been a lot of fun. John, I do want to congratulate you for 1,000 followers. It's a major milestone.
You're running away because you've got no questions left.
I have no questions left, and I actually have to get up to get into work an hour or 2 hours early because we have a lot of problems with customs at the moment with shipping.
Right, okay.
I need to be somewhat awake when I try and do entries for customs and taxes. Because if I'm a devil, I don't know what they are.
All right. Well,
Take care, everyone.
thanks, Saxius. Thank you, Saxius.
Right.
Thanks, man.
Take care.
Yeah,
Saxius.
my final answer is Fighter Mage Cleric and Mage Cleric. I can't remember whether they can multi-class as well.
I can't find it.
I have a feeling that might have been opened up for Rangers and Druid multi-classes in Unearthed Arcana, but I'm not sure in the original Player's Handbook.
So let's see. This is what's okay. So,
What page is it on, if you don't mind? Because I found out. 1 sec.
18.
32.
Oh, okay.
Or 18.
Well, there's one in 18 that says a fighter thief is limited by the constraints of the thief class. But I'm looking up for some more in there just in case.
Oh, my internet connection started to play up. Oh, Core also allows Cleric Ranger. Oh, I forgot about the Cleric Ranger bit. Okay, this is the bit then I might have to snip for a video short or something, because this is where I consume. Here it is. This
By
is.
the way,
This is Carolina Reaper Chili Jam.
Oof.
Okay. There we go. Can you see it there? That is more than I normally add to a chili.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Oh God.
Fair
Before John, before you eat, I want to say it has been a privilege streaming with you tonight.
Ready? Are we ready for this? 1, 2, 3.
Sink the Titanic, boys.
His poor throat.
Well, I'm thinking what's going to happen tomorrow to him.
Especially with all the other chilies down
There it is. There it is.
And it gets worse over time, is what it says. So this isn't even going to be the worst part.
Nope.
I've got seeds.
Oh,
The seeds are stuck in my teeth.
Oh no. Oh boy. Yeah, I think the only thing that orcs can multiclass with clerics are assassins, I think. I don't think they can multiclass as fighter clerics. Like,
I can't imagine right now what you're going through, because even when you breathe in that, it just seems to make it worse.
It's sweet, and you're right about it building. That's it. There we go. Carolina Reaper.
Well, whether this Reaper or another one, you can say you at least met death today.
As long as he doesn't go the way of, what is it, the Carolina Pigeon?
Oh wow,
Is that my
Hopworks can be
eyeballs?
cleric thieves and fighter clerics too. Huh. I didn't realize that. I just couldn't find it. I tried to find it because, like, Gygax is a saint of D&D, but my God, I'm glad Osric is a thing.
Oh,
Because that book is so poorly organized. Yeah, cleric fighter, cleric thief, cleric assassin, fighter thief, and fighter assassin for half orcs. Thank you, Praxis. Thank you very much.
No, I was looking at it allows you to use their stuff, but not while you're using thief skills. But I could have sworn one of them said up there, it's like.
I am just so.
It's entirely possible that it does too, because those rules are often so contradictory.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm glad I asked John that infamous question when I did, because if I asked him now, he might actually come to the Republic and try to take back the country to kill me. John, are you okay? You're not looking too hot. Well, you're looking pretty warm, buddy. You're not looking so good. You okay? Oh, he's gone delirious. Oh, God, he's gone delirious. We're losing him, boys.
I'm beginning to wonder if he's already gone to Spaceballs and seeing plaid at the moment. Or...
Well, Reaper chilies can make you hallucinate, so...
Well, there are some chilies that do. They're these weird seeds. They're not spicy. They like numb you, and they make you feel all tingly. And those because it was a YouTube channel I recommended to John, Hot Pepper Gaming, and they just chewed on them, and the guy kind of went whoa. He just kind of zonked out every so often. It was weird.
And we don't know what John can do because he can't drink milk to reduce it. So.
Honey,
all I see is him. He's not quite doing it, but it's almost like he's doing this. You know. I'm self-serving.
Okay, Graham?
I'll just go back and forth and having flashbacks to when his mother was holding him. He stubbed his toe or something.
To say, I just musing. Sadly, I am lactose intolerant. I can't have milk or ice cream.
Oh yeah.
Eat the bread.
Otherwise, that would be even more amusing for you guys.
honey, John, honey, it'll help.
Does honey help? I don't know. That's one of those things.
I've heard it. I heard it like soothes and like peels. Like, because apparently what it does is like.
We haven't got any honey in the cup.
What? Yeah, basically what I heard honey does is like when you eat spicy food, like fragments of the seeds get lodged inside you, and the honey like peels them out. That's just what I was told years ago when I was younger. I don't know how true it is, but I have nothing else to
Well, we'll just wish this over forward to you, so you can, that's. But
oh, don't do that. That's like that's like Sisyphus. He's like you're just poor. They're not Sisyphus. Oh God, what was that guy's name? Tantalus. Tantalus. Where he's just like you just put the honey above him, and every time he reaches for it, you just yoink it out of his hand, and every time he goes for the water, you just make the water recede beneath him. That's actually where we get the word tantalizing from.
Tantalus, yes, I know.
But the Yanks might not.
Well, if we're going to do this, and this is my favorite. Not nearly as.
What'd you say, Elfbait?
Said we're not that dumb.
I'm not saying you're that dumb. It's not many people know about it, even where I'm from.
Yes, but this is nerd circles here. We know lots of things.
Yeah, but
True.
that's chili queso. This is some of the best queso I've found anywhere. But
Yeah, to be fair, I'm obsessed. I'm autistically obsessed with myth. So, you know, I don't meet many people who know as much as I do, but we need more people obsessing over Greek myth. Damn it!
And yes, I do feel a little bit high now.
It's the blood. The blood has gone straight to your head, man. That's what it is. Your muscles tensed, and the blood went straight to your head.
The overstimulus of your taste buds can also is what
Do
it's
that,
been
yeah.
mentioned a few times in here. Taste bud hallucinations. It's a thing. Basically, the overload of your taste buds can basically make you go into an altered state.
My mouth isn't suffering anymore. It is.
It has transcended taste.
It's behind the eyes,
Oh,
and I
Your-
have
your
tinnitus in my ears.
well, you know what
And-
amazes me is his nose isn't running or anything.
My
Practice
nose
makes a
is
good suggestion. Apple cider
What's-
vinegar is
what's-
a good way to cut it too.
My nose.
Yeah, I think we're gonna go no higher than that, John, because you might pass out. I'm not even saying that as a joke. I think you might literally pass out.
But I will say that is an hour and a half with no drinking.
Well done.
So it's something I vowed to do beforehand. But I am now going to have a drink of something.
I mean,
And it is something as hardcore as cherry Pepsi Max. Cheers.
oh, cherry.
Cheers, all.
Disgusting.
I am starting to recover.
Well, good.
That
Good.
There we go.
That was insane. I've only ever eaten that in tiny amounts on a sandwich, and I mean just almost showing it to the back of a spoon and just going, oh, it's almost touched the bread. Or I've made like a big chili with a pre-made chili sauce and just put maybe a quarter of a teaspoon in a chili, enough for 5 or 6 portions, and even then it gives pretty good heat. So
Yeah, something Mage's Musing says this might be a fun regular event. Hot spice trivia with a different contestant on each stream.
Uh-oh.
I don't keep a lot of chilies around.
I am now going to say
Yeah.
Mm.
thank you to the Chili Jam man. I actually bought these over the space of the last few years. My wife has been buying them for Christmas. I do like a lot of spicy food. If I go out for a curry, it's usually a madras or a vindaloo, something like that. I don't go down the foul route. That's beyond me. But his stuff has always been good. He's a mate of mine from university days, and he has given me a code to use. If anybody does fancy hot stuff, I don't know if he ships to America. I'm afraid I don't know. I know he'll do the British Isles. He is it's not cheap, but it is all made in his kitchen and all made with fresh stuff, and he puts some love into it.
That's cool.
So cheers, Simon. I used to play American football with him. I was a fullback on the American football team. He was a defensive end or defensive tackle. So he was a big guy. Right.
Yeah. Musings. I heard of that. Musings. Man, if you think that's terrifying, there is a I mentioned earlier in the stream called it's called flashbang. It's a type of thing that says if you consume more than a single drop of it, it can induce unconsciousness.
I've seen that. Yes.
It has reportedly more than 4 million Scoville units on it, from what I've heard. It is quite literally one of the spiciest things on the planet. You've had flashbang. Okay.
You know what's interesting is, by my understanding, is birds don't have any problems with it because they don't have the receptors for the spice in food, so they don't
Really?
feel the heat. Yeah, so they can eat the chilies without any problems. Apparently, I don't know. I haven't actually tried and said, "Here you go. Here are turkeys." Good way to ruin
Maybe
your-
did you become an ex as a result of buying that bottle of Flashbang?
Wow, yeah. It's like, wow. Like, was this the flashbang before you went to the wing place or after? Because if it's before, because if it was before, she's like, I made a mistake. We're gonna pare this down. If it was after, she's just asking for trouble. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, lessons were not learned.
I did once host a I host pub quizzes regularly, and you know the play your cards right game. I don't know if it's ever got to America, where you have to go across a board, higher or lower, with cards to win.
Mm-hmm.
You ever seen that? You get an ace is high, so you're lower than an ace. You get a 5, higher than a 5. Oh, you got a 2. Sorry, you lose. Next contestant, and if you get all the way across the board, you win. It's a game we played at our quizzes, and somebody bought. Pardon me, I'm burping now. Pardon me. Somebody bought some of these 5-star chili wings and said to me, eat one of these while you're hosting the play your cards right tonight. That didn't go entirely well either. It was. I did have the sauce all over my fingers, which smeared all over the cards as well. But I was on a microphone trying to eat this chili wing that was absolutely blowing my head off while trying to host higher or lower in front of a pub full of drunken people. That didn't go particularly well. Anyhow, silly anecdote. And I will be doing the prize draw next week, and anyone's welcome. I don't have a lot of luck with these prize draw things, in terms of it always seems to be someone I know gets picked out, and people start shouting unfair. Again, at a pub quiz, before the days of internet phones, I used to do a rollover question. Everyone would put in £1 and have a guess a question. Whoever was closest, a numerical one, whoever was closest would win £10. But a pot would roll over and build up and build up and build up. And if somebody got it spot on, they would win whatever's in the pot. And it got to £200 or £300 sometimes. My brother turned up at 5 to 10. I was doing the draw at 10 o'clock and asked if he could have a go. He never came to the quiz at all. I asked the question, and this was about 1999, 2000. In dollars and cents, and bear in mind we're in Britain, what is the average price of a Big Mac across the USA? He'd never been to America. The exchange rate changed daily. I got it from that day, converted the exchange rate, and it was $2.86. And the little bugger got it absolutely spot on and nearly got me killed. Anyway.
Wah.
So yeah, I'll be doing a completely random draw next week to see who wins. I've had about 40 odd entrants so far, so we'll see how that goes.
So listen,
anyone got any more questions?
So what requires a wish to kill?
I took a vacation day today, so I've been lazy all day. It's not tired; it's lazy.
I said, which creature in the hardback books requires a wish to kill?
The Tarrasque.
Yes.
Yeah. Wait, I thought the Tarrasque was in 2nd edition.
No, it's the
first Monster Manual too.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it in my. Maybe I just skimmed over and didn't notice it.
I looked at it.
I've heard it's actually funny. It is said that a wish can kill it. Not that a wish will kill it, but that it is said a wish can kill it. So you can get a real vindictive DM be like, well, the legends were wrong.
We had a DM who basically had it to where it didn't kill it. It just sort of reset it. And it's like, it'll come back eventually, but
at least it's not now. Yeah, it's like you can't, because you can't kill the Tarrasque. You can't kill it. You just put it to sleep.
Or my favorite is there are multiple Tarrasques and only one is active at any one time.
My friend was in this ridiculous campaign. He comes home every night, and my roommate and he's like talking about this campaign, and I'm like, I can't be in it. It's against my work time or whatever. And eventually, you just started realizing just how ridiculous this campaign. It's like every week, it's like some new ultra powerful guy that they're stomping, and then at some point in the high ends of the campaign, they were doing like a first edition campaign or something like that, and they're like, oh yeah, and there were like 8 Tarrasques. I'm like, bullshit.
There's one.
I'm like, well, even if your DM decides to throw 8 out there, why? I mean, like, what kind of
Like, come on, like Jesus, man, like that's
and they're
just
like, yo, we
like
got done fighting Orcus, and I'm like, okay, yeah.
I'm the sort of grammar pedant that if anyone ever says a Tarrasque, I'll always correct them and say the Tarrasque.
yeah.
So do
And
you?
it-
Uh,
Go ahead. I was trying to
go
think
ahead. You good?
well, there was, and see, I know John would never get this because it was from a Dragon magazine, but they had one. I forgot what the type. I can't remember if it was the Star Dragon or something like that. And the whole point was it had 10,000 hit points. I forgot what it had, like a -100 armor class or something like that.
Is that
And
like
the
the
whole-
Astral Dragon or whatever?
It was meant kind of as a joke, and the idea was that the players have to dump all magic items into its mouth, and it gets a certain percentage to leave. Otherwise, it eats the world, and the whole game is over.
It sounds like one of their April Fool's issues.
Oh yeah, I think it is.
Like when
I mean-
the Blink Woolly Mammoths in one issue.
I missed that. I wish I'd seen the Blink Woolly Mammoth.
Blink Woolly Mammoths were awesome because their favorite attack was to blink into the air above a target and then fall on it.
Dave
Mate,
Mills has asked what raises the highest chance on hear noise rolls. I'm going to guess at gnomes, but I'm probably wrong because I can't remember.
I'm
What's
trying
the
to
percentage
find.
chance of a 7th-level monk to instantly kill an opponent?
I'm looking that up. I actually can't find it.
I didn't think that they could instantly kill an opponent until they got the quick, the hand of death.
Yeah, they
Oh,
didn't. They
right,
don't
no.
get that until ages later.
I thought the quivering palm did come in later. I know there's
Yeah.
a stun. There's a stun chance, which is being 5 over.
Maybe it's a trick question and the percentage chance is 0.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, but that's not even. That's just a cruel question because if it's a 0% chance, there's no chance, so that's a non-answer. So.
But I think there might be an instant kill. It's
No, the last ability gained, and perhaps the most terrible power, is the fabled attack, and which enables the monk to set up vibrations in the body of the victim, and the monk can then control such vibrations as such to cause death to occur when the monk stops them. Known as the quivering palm, the monk merely touches his victims to set up the deadly vibrations. When does it get this ability?
Level
It
13.
It mentions it at level 12. It says it gets the Gios at 12, so I assume it gets it after then. So
Yeah,
I
if
would
you
assume
look at-
13 or onwards.
Yeah, if you look up on the monk table 1, it shows right there as Master of Winter.
Master of Winter.
Thanks,
Level 13. Cool. Yeah,
So
but yeah, K.
he's
So I
not
assume
referring to quivering palm.
yeah, the K I presume too is the quivering palm. Okay.
it's not a trick, only a semi-trick question.
Yeah, he says he's not referring to quivering palm.
Right. Oh, hang on. They've got to be able to stun them. And is it something like 1%? It depends on the armor class. I'm sure it depends on the armor class of the person being hit. Is that
The only
right?
thing I see at 7th level is their ability to heal.
Look up their open hand attack. I think it might be a percentage equal to the armor class of the creature. Or maybe armor class might... No.
Okay, so there we go. So it's open hand combat damage. The percentile dice score must be equal to or less than the armor class of the stunned opponent, modified by the monk's levels over 7th in order to score a kill.
Oh, their level's over 7. Right, okay.
But you got it.
Yeah, people wonder why I fucking hate the monk.
Well, the monk is really cool if you can get him up to the level where they're actually cool.
No, it's overly complicated. There's too much stuff here. It's like you got to check this, you got to do that. It needs this. It's this class and this. Just play a fighter. Just treat your one-hit die attacks as if they were unarmored against creatures. I may give you a stun ability, and we'll be done with it.
And the biggest problem. Go ahead.
Your monk basically dies from a sneeze. I mean,
yeah, it's a whole class though that uses its own set of rules that are kind of separate from the rest of the game, though. So,
but John knows I'm a proponent of the core 4. I'm a proponent of the core 4.
At first level, the monk has an AC of 10.
Mm-hmm.
AC is not modified by dexterity.
At all?
Not
at all?
That seems weird and like counter to the concept of the game.
They have a THACO of 20. And they can only have one weapon proficiency at first level. They gain weapon proficiencies quickly, but they only start with one weapon. Now, the only time I've ever gamed a monk, that character started off with weapon proficiency of lasso. So
he chose a rope. He chose a fucking rope.
That might sound a problem because the only damage they could do with open hand. But I took them through the Sentinel when they were all level 2, 3, 4. And in order to get their levels, they'd sold off a couple of magic items, including a magic bow. They had their entirety of their magic weapon collection consisted of 1+1 dagger. And there's an encounter in the Sentinel with two gargoyles. Now, can you imagine a party of 7 or 8 second, third, fourth level characters taking on 2 gargoyles with 1+1 dagger between them?
Oh.
Well, I will also like
stab and you throw it to your friend.
I would like to point out
they gave
the
dagger to the biggest, strongest fighter, and the monk wrapped the other one up in his lasso and tightened the lasso. Doesn't have to do damage to the creature, just pinned it to the ground. Because when the monk, the gargoyle was flying, the monk said, I use the lasso, I'm going to try and lasso the flying gargoyle, and rolled a 20. You've got to allow it. It's...
Yeah, I mean, creativity it comes in there,
Yeah. I would like to also point out Praxis. I don't like the monk because the dubbing is always off and it unsettles me to see players' mouth not match the words.
I have to admit, though, it's been a class that I've always had problems with in the past because playing very Eurocentric kind of setting. I did work really hard to find ways to make Eurocentric Euro-style monks in my setting that just had the fighting tradition. And it was a way to go about it, but I mean, you could do it, but it was one of those weird, odd decisions. It has
They're not even
somebody's personal project back in the early days.
Yeah, because let's be frank, it's not even right. Because at least you could say like the paladin follows the myth of what would be a holy knight or Charlemagne's court or King Arthur, right?
Yeah.
The fighter is the fighting man. The thief follows Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. The cleric is Van Helsing and the Knights Templar. The wizard is like Thurisdun. Not Thurisdun. Thulsa Dune. My apologies. But the monk is just the hooey dooey kung fu films of the 1980s.
The monk is Bruce Lee. The monk is Daniel San.
Well, it's Bruce Lee if you go back to the
70s. But they're nowhere near as powerful as the Wuxia character until they get to like, I don't know, 13th or 14th level.
No, but none of the classes are as powerful as their archetypes until they get there. I mean, the first level wizard isn't anywhere near Merlin. So.
But Merlin is like almost a demigod, basically.
And so are
he's like no, but he's he's literally a half demon. Like, so he's not even human.
So is a tiefling.
We don't talk about Hellspawn on this channel, okay?
Oh, God.
When I was a
You
teenager,
don't,
when
but-
I was a teenager, I had no problems with the monk at all because I simply did not associate the word monk with anything to do with kung fu.
Yeah.
I thought monks were from monasteries, as in,
Like
clerics.
a Franciscan monk, basically.
Yeah, I genuinely, when I
Oh
was
God.
13, 14, I genuinely
I mean,
thought
I
that, because
suppose-
I'd never seen any of those films.
I suppose you could make a case for like, you know, and kind of what I did in the past is like retheming it to where like the key is sort of like channeling divinity instead of channeling personal energy.
That's what I thought they were doing.
They're sort of a divine class. Also, there's that whole, you know, Sherwood, you know, with
Staff, the quarterstaff, yeah.
well, with you know the robustness of Friar Tuck and those various
Yeah.
prior characters throughout folklore who are sort of there. You can mix and match it to make it fit, but that was the thing, you had to do extra work to make it fit. Where everything else kind of fit well together, even bards, because they're a tradition, you know.
Okay, so,
I mean,
so
The
go for-
wave of heat is washing up from my stomach now.
oh no. So
Oh.
here's a question for you for 1E. What are the 4 different methods you can use to roll your character?
Right.
All right.
4d6 rearrange.
Okay.
3d6 6 times for each stat in order. 3d6 12 times. Keep the 6 best. And does it even mention 3d6 in order? I don't think it does.
It says also, yeah, I'm looking at the 3d6 rolled 12 times, and the highest are retained.
Yeah.
6 highest are retained.
3d6 6 times for each stat in order. 4d6 rearrange. And I can't remember the other one. Is it just 3d6? No. Oh, no, it's roll 3d6 enough to make a certain number of characters. It's either 6 or 12 characters, and you choose your favorite one.
Yes. I
Hermit,
it's 12 characters. Yeah.
Squirrel Hermit, I already mentioned that dreadful version. Don't mention it again because John might bust a
All right.
gasket.
Method 5, what is it? I'm drawing a blank.
It is the bane of John's existence and my personal way to get under his skin.
All right, method 5 was officially the beginning of absolute power creep. Up until the release of Unearthed Arcana, it was very much the case that certain classes were rare because you had to achieve certain stat levels to reach them.
Yeah.
Method 5 officially gave all human characters the ability to players to play humans of whatever character type they wanted, because it allowed them to roll a certain number of dice per stat depending on the class, and if they didn't achieve what they needed, they just said bump it up to the minimum anyway.
Oh, no wonder I don't even remember it.
I don't
Because
even.
it's so
What
obscure.
book was that from?
Is that in
Unearthed
Unearthed Arcana,
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
UA.
All we ever used out of there was maybe some of the new weapon rules and like the barbarian and the cavalier and the acrobat classes. So
So if we're going to go through
And-
this, what age should a starting character begin at as a fighter to get the maximum bonuses?
To get the maximum bonuses,
Yes.
you've got you'd be 21, wouldn't you? You'd be mature, so you get +1 to strength. Your -1 to wisdom is now cancelled out by the +1 to wisdom you get there, and you got +1 constitution.
Yeah. Oh, and I remember doing that, saying, well, now that I've gone up, do I get to roll for my 0 strength? That's,
See, I always treated that +1 as a +1 strength category. So you went to if you rolled 1810, you'd now have 1851. You'd move
okay.
up. That's how I always treated it.
Nice.
But I might be harsh.
Never-
Never. I know some people who said, "Well, we go 18 to 19." I'm like, no, mate.
Oh, no. I was used to, like, as soon as you hit from a 17 to an 18, because you can't go above your maximum human strength. But then the question was, well, okay, if you went from 17 to 18, now do you roll your 00 because you're a fighter? And that was my question from that. And
If you went from 17 to 18, I would always say you start at 1801. Sorry.
Yeah, I think there's a precedent in some of the magic items that increase stats that actually have you bracket up through the various percentages.
I'm not a huge fan of the way the way 1820 handled stats. Not a huge fan of it. It's too.
I love it. I love the fact each stat does something very different.
Yeah. The only thing I could really say would improve that, and would be if they had some sort of unified mechanic for how they all worked. But I also agree with the gamist angle, where having all these little fiddly subsystems that worked differently really made the game kind of engaging and fun.
Yes.
I'm not a bookkeeper.
Is that everything seems very samey because they have a very unified mechanic in 5e. So it's you kind of lose that, like, oh, I'm a thief, so I'm using percentiles all the time, and then the fighter's like, sometimes I'm rolling low, sometimes I'm rolling high.
I hate my brain just like, no, I like uniformity. It's why I don't like why can't non-fighters use their strength the same way a fighter can? That makes no sense to me. I just say, look, fighter, you can add half your level to your damage. And that's how you differentiate your competency as a fighter on the battlefield. So,
well, yeah, house rule it as much as you want. I mean, it's your game.
Yeah.
I mean, I like uniformity, and I do like, for example, I hate THAC0. For example, it's the adherence to THAC0 is it doesn't need to be, and I know it's part of the charm of the old system, but progressive armor class is just much more common sense. So,
well, you talk about THAC0, and the funny thing is, when I look at THAC0, was the only time I started seeing it was when you started getting into the mid 1980s as a way of just getting it so you don't have to look up on your Dungeon Master screen to see what's required to hit.
Yeah. I mean, just the whole armor class system that leads to THAC0. I mean, that whole, like, the number getting smaller.
Descending.
Was
the descending armor class.
Yeah, that was always confusing for new players who weren't in the know. Like, why is it that my lower number is better when everything else is pluses? Oh, my +3 armor makes my armor class go down 3.
But Praxis, I will say this: the DM is the rules, and if I'm the DM at the table, I'm the rules. So shut your face.
Yeah. I'm beginning to appreciate all the work that went into it, but I also realize that a lot of it is just bloat that you can add and subtract as you go through. And I think that's the problem that everyone wants to go through. Because when I was young, I was a bad rules lawyer. I would remember what page stuff was on, memorize all the books in there, and go, well, such and such page says I get this with this modifier and blah, blah, blah. And now I get old and like, all you're doing is slowing the game down and you're not making it any better.
Yeah, we played with what we needed to have fun, and that's it. I mean, that's ultimately the goal. I mean, if you want to get in there and use everything like weapon speed and all that fun stuff, then cool.
So
but you're going to have a slow game.
So what is the maximum value a gym could be worth?
What?
The maximum value a gym could be worth.
Oh, God. Is it 1 million gold?
How much?
1 million.
Yes.
I beg your pardon?
Yeah, one gem could be worth up to 1 million gold.
Did a dragon shit it out or something? Like,
it's crazy how valuable some gemstones are in D&D, and like here's one diamond, 50,000 gold. Yeah.
Well,
up to 100,000.
Well, I mean, it starts off and it'll go through and it goes like 5,000 gold each, and then you start rolling to increase or decrease the worth beyond the base value. It says, well, if you roll a 1, roll again, and it gives you like 10, 25, 50, 100, 250,000, 500,000, and 1 million.
Yeah, you've got to roll about 5 or 6 ones in a row, though, haven't you, to do that?
Yeah.
As Major's Music just said, the statistical odds of it happening are extreme.
I mean, technically, because it's D&D, you could have them even more valuable than that if you wanted to. It is a diamond the size of a dragon, and so, Or a diamond
It's a-
dragon.
Dragon. If a diamond dragon, that would be quite literally priceless.
Well, it also
There'd probably only be.
it's one of the. I think it's one of the gemstone dragons that they have.
Yeah. I mean, there'd probably only be like one of them. So
I want to find the exact rule, but there's one rule in there that how did 1E use fatigue actually?
Oh,
I don't remember fatigue in 1A.
There's one thing in there that talks about when you're starting to travel, and it starts talking about fatigue, and I have to find where it is.
I remember it being in certain modules as little additional
Blurbs.
modules.
I'd be curious. I'm really curious to hear how they did it because I'm a huge fan of exhaustion in 5e.
I'm beginning to appreciate it too, and I'll have to find it, but I believe what it said is that if you keep on going, there's a certain point where you actually start to lose levels as you become exhausted.
Life level drain.
What?
Not
Was-
permanently, but you
What-
basically lose your effectively. You lose your
Oh,
effectiveness.
okay, right.
Was
Right,
that in one
right.
of the survival guides?
I know it's, I believe, in the basic Dungeon Master's Guide.
Oh, that's a bit I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I was sitting there one day watching Questing Beast read off, literally, hit from the beginning to the end.
Oh, he's been
The
doing the
lost-
read-through, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lost rules of Gygax. Yeah.
And he did that, and it was, and I'll have to find it, but somewhere in there it was, if you keep on traveling, at a certain point, you start losing a level until you can rest. And I'll have to go look at it. It'll take me a little bit, but...
What's funny is that just makes a better case. Recently, I was making a case that level draining monsters in 5e should do levels of exhaustion rather than draining temporary hit points. And that fatigue rule just makes a good case for that, because what happens in 5e as you travel and get tired is you face levels of exhaustion. So,
Which, makes sense. If you're like a vampire's like draining your blood, you're going to get tired.
It perfectly mirrors the narrative of most fictional life drain. You start out with just being a little logy, so your ability checks are affected, and then your speed is reduced, and then your attacks are at disadvantage, and then you can't move, and then you die.
No, it's 6. No, you die at 6.
Yeah,
I think
it's 6 levels of exhaustion. You die at 6. You're right, and I think it's at a certain point you can't move. At a certain point you go unconscious, and then you die.
Yeah,
I think 5 is how you go unconscious. But otherwise,
it has been a while.
It is cool, and actually, honestly, it's a rule that's been there since the beginning of 5e, but it barely gets used, and it's so effective for. I mean, and the life level draining maximum hit point. You're draining from your hit point maximum is so fiddly to keep track of, and it really is a toothless. Damage, because it does damage to you, but then it also drains your hit point maximum, and then it's gone as soon as you rest. Of course, that's the other problem with 5e.
No, you lose one. You lose 1 level per long rest, I think, or something like that. So at least that's something. But it goes disadvantage on ability, speed is halved, disadvantage on attack and saving throws, HP maximum is halved.
Yeah.
Speed is 0, then you die. I prefer your method where it's speed is 0, then you drop unconscious, then you die.
Yeah,
I think it's better.
Misquoting. That's not my method. I was just remembering wrong.
I know, but no. I mean, your misremembrance is better than half
I would do that
HP
to
maximum.
take out the temporary hit point part, because the temporary hit points is just fiddly and unnecessary.
That's what I mean. Yeah, just go at 4 instead of the HP maximum being halved. Say speed is 0, then at 5 you drop unconscious. Or you're comatized, and then 6. If somehow something happens to you, like you get exposed to heat for too long, you die. Sorry, you're dead. You are dead.
So Omen? Did you find the fatigue rule?
I'm trying to hunt for it in here. Like I say, it'll take a little while.
What John was saying, that does sound like something that might have come out in the Wilderness Survival Guide.
No, it was in the really beginning. So how in the world did I miss this?
There's so many things, even in the PHB that my friend and I were looking through it one day when we were bored at a birthday party, and so I pulled it out and I'm just like looking at it.
Is this 1E? This is the
Yeah,
1E?
and 1E PHB,
Right.
and we're just like, there are things we found in there that we thought only came into the game in later editions. And we're like, did you play with this? No. Did you even know this was here? No.
Well, and it's funny because what your eyes will focus in on, you're like, oh, it's this one right here. And you look at it and it's right off onto the side. Like, oh, I just ignored the whole thing about some of this, but I could have sworn. I thought it was fairly early in the beginning. That's why I'm trying to look for it. Now,
Mage's Musing says DMG page 49.
Okay. Let's see.
Cool.
Congrats to the
Praxis. DMG page 69. Stop it, Praxis.
Quickly ask Grumpy Old
Yeah,
Slan.
that's exactly it. It's under force movement. If you read under force movement, failure to rest after normal movement is equal to 100% means that beasts of burden have a cumulative chance of dropping dead. Other creatures lose one level of ability or hit die in the same manner until 0 is reached and exhaustion kills them.
Jesus.
Cool.
Such loss of vitality, whether by beast or burden, creature or character, requires a full 8 hours of additional rest for each 10% increment, hit die, or level of ability lost. If, for example, a 12th level fighter who moves an additional 90% of movement after exceeding normal movement by 100% must rest 72 hours consecutively in order to regain 12th level ability. Prior to that period of rest, the character is effectively 3rd level.
That's cool. I wish I would have known about that. I really like survival style campaign play, and
I'm thinking of making an apocalypse RPG at some point. So more rules about survival. I'm all for.
I like the ability to actually, where the threat is not necessarily always the monsters, but it's the environment. I really do love that aspect.
Yeah. It's actually a really
not
good
just
way to do traps without traps too.
Well,
you're in the desert and it's hot and you can't get out. That's the trap. And then you start telling them every day that goes by, like, yeah, you guys feel really tired. And then you start telling them, yeah, you've lost a level. Wait, why? You're exhausted.
I think
you're exhausted.
Geek was trying to bring up a question for. Oh wait, no, he already did for Grumpy Old Slan. So.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, what I was looking at for myself, and I've been trying to get my friend to figure out what he wants to play, and then trying to modify what I want 5e to be more like. And I still have to do a few more things, but one of the things is, every time that you go to 0 hit points, you get a level of exhaustion, and then I'm trying to figure out which critical table I want to use, and say, I'm trying to figure out if I want to do that when you hit 0 hit points and just start rolling criticals until you're dead. Every time you get hit, take another critical, just like they do in Warhammer fantasy roleplay.
Yeah. I actually was very happy my last 5th edition session I ran. One of my players was actually asking me, wait, isn't there like a critical damage check or something like here? I'm like,
no.
Yeah, but there is actually, if you want to use one of the optional rules, there's if you take more than half your hit points in one blow, you can take a critical injury.
Oh yeah, because I think in Pathfinder they have, like, if you take more than half your health in one shot, you have to make a save versus death or instantly die from shock or something like that.
Well, and in 5e they actually have the instant kill in the core rules, not just an optional rule. If you take damage in excess of your, once you hit 0, if you take damage in excess of half of
your max,
you're instant.
It's half your max. Yeah.
Dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
That said, I think I'm going to be more. I'm trying to find out what has the best critical role tables, is because I would love to start just going. If anyone remembers the Warhammer Fantasy, as you start going up and up, it's like brain splatter everywhere, and fall down. Yeah, I'd be like, okay, because that suddenly starts getting characters like, oh, I'm going to go to 0 hit points. Like, I don't want to lose a hand. Okay, then you might want to run away.
Yeah.
like the pimp, like the Lion and Dragon game I play, there are expanded criticals in that where if you like roll like things like you get hit in the groin and you become infertile, or you lose fingers, or your nose gets chopped off and you lose penalties to reactions, or if you roll the highest, a 21 or higher, it's basically save versus death or instantly die. If you save, take triple damage.
I try to use those sparingly when I do play games with them because there's a certain point where the characters just start getting so messed up they're just not playable anymore.
Yeah, it's the death spiral basically.
Well,
Yeah.
not even the death spiral. They just become unfun. Like, okay, my guy's got a peg leg and a hook hand and one eye, and
MERP has got all of those sort of things in.
Yeah.
But the reason they work in MERP is they are rare, they are flavorful. You can negate them with armor. Certain armor types will cancel crits on certain parts of the body. And there are healing herbs you can seek out to restore, to help recover, help bones heal, and that sort of thing. So it's all built into the game. All these little nuggets are in there, as Major's Musings said, for flavor, and that works. I don't mind those sort of things which have been built around them. D&D never was.
I wouldn't put them into any game except for like grim medieval, like Lion and Dragon, or in an apocalypse game like I'm doing, where the whole point is you're meant to avoid combat as much as possible. Like if you get into a
game, it makes sense too.
Yeah, like if you get into combat in like an apocalypse game, you have made a mistake. You have absolutely made a mistake.
Well, and part of me wanted to do it, and to be fair, and I'm going to have to see and how it works out, was the idea was I don't want people bouncing up and down.
Oh, yeah, what do they call it? They refer to that in D&D, the popcorn death or whatever it is.
Whack-a-mole.
Yeah, whack-a-mole. Yeah, because I've even seen that, especially now that they have the distance healing spells in 5th edition.
Oh, healing word. Oh, I hate that spell so much.
But even without healing word, you get so many death saves to begin with. You're like, okay, he's down. Well, he's back up. The best thing you can do, honestly, to counter that is just to make your monsters be a bunch of bastards. He's down, okay, and so his goblin friend next to him is just going to stab you in the spleen and make sure you're dead. You know?
Well,
yeah, but but that only does 2 death saves. I'm like, not when he drew the blade across the throat. He didn't. I
don't want to have to be that way, but I'd much rather them say, okay, went down. All right, the first hit, you get an exhaustion. And then if you get any more hits from there, then it's like, do you want to keep fighting or do you want to run? And that's the idea for me.
I would frame that even like if you watch modern movies, especially, there's always that scene where the guy is down and then the guy just keeps hitting him. When he went down, he was just down. And you've seen it in the movies. It's usually done from the point of view with the face shot for the guy who's just laying into the guy, and next thing you're hearing squish and crunch and more. That's what the goblin is doing to you as he stands over you and keeps hitting you.
Well, but see, and I don't want to be that brutal anyway. I just want them to go, okay, if combat gets deadly, I'm not just going to do whack-a-mole, boom, boom. Oh, I got hit. Come back up. I want them to go, all right, I can get a permanent scar, which may have no real effect. But then as you start getting worse and worse and worse up there, you're like, this is not where you want to be. You start losing hands and fingers and arms.
Yeah.
And, that's okay. That's up to you guys on how you want to go from there. But I want them to go, okay, I don't want a death saving throw. But I'm trying to figure out if I want to do it by exhaustion. Every time that you go to 0 hit points, you gain a level of exhaustion. Or if I want to do it as a critical hit. And we'll see what my players want to do.
Mage's Musings suggests having death saves.
I got to go to those.
All right,
guys.
Later on.
All right, see you later.
So if you have so he says he has his death saves linger, which would be another way to do it. So I'm not sure what his recoup is on that, but that would be a way too. Because okay, well you've already failed 1 death save, so next time you go down, you've only got 2 chances before you die. That would be one way too. keep that death clock going.
I mean, people do say it is very, very hard for characters to die in 5th edition, and yeah, my last 2 sessions of fifth edition, yes, I play a slightly modified version where I have made characters a bit more fragile. I've removed all ranged healing, like healing word and revivifier spells that don't exist. And my group have got to the bottom of the Lost City now. And last session, or 2 sessions ago, they lost a 6th level rogue to a basilisk because he failed his save twice, which 5th edition is still quite nasty with basilisks. He failed his first save, which meant he was affected by the gaze, and then he gets a chance the next round to save to avoid the turning to stone. Failed that as well, and he turned to stone, so he is now a statue. And this last session just gone, they got to the bottom and fought the bad guy at the bottom, and this was a party of 6 characters. With a shape-shifting druid being a big hit point sponge as they are in 5th edition, who summoned 2 grizzly bears using an animal summoning spell to try and absorb damage as well. And we still had the case where a 6th level fighter or 5th level got killed in the fight, and the other fighter, who's got about 80 odd hit points because he's a dwarf with the tough feet and all that sort of stuff, he got knocked down as well and was making death saves. So it can be, if you make it difficult enough.
Yeah,
they won the fight, and it was touch and go, and they won the fight mainly because the main bad guy rolled 2 consecutive 1s on key rolls. If that hadn't have happened, because the bad guy was grappled by a giant constrictor snake that they'd got a staff of the python that they sacrificed to create a giant constrictor snake that managed to grapple the bad guy at the end, and he was trying to get the grapple off, and he rolled 2 consecutive 1s, which meant it was attacking with disadvantage, and they were attacking him with advantage, so they were wailing on him. If that hadn't have happened, there's every chance the whole party would have gone down.
Here's the thing I've generally noticed with 5e is it tends to be, they're hard to kill, or it's a complete TPK. I mean, because once one goes down and then the other one goes down.
It's an action economy.
Yeah. I don't, like I said, I want it so players, because I kind of like the grittier aspect to it. And I'm trying to figure out how to do it, and we'll see. It really depends on my friend's wife on what she likes, because what she plays is what he's going to play. So, and on how they like that. But I also don't like being too brutal on them. But I do want them to go, okay, if we hit 0 hit points, this is going to be bad.
Yeah, the thing that always stands out with 5th edition for me is it can be deadly. I feel like 5th edition versus older versions, in 5e, I have to really try to have it be deadly, whereas, like 1st, 2nd, even 3rd, it was just dangerous by its nature. And so, you had your encounter there with a couple good die rolls. In my last session, my party of 4 5th level characters, because they were tactically smart about this encounter, because they were infiltrating a camp and stuff. They fought against, was it 4 guards, 2 acolytes, and challenge rating 5 priest in one encounter, and got through that without any real damage. And then when the undead hill giant showed up, they had it down in 3 rounds. It was just insane. And I feel like so often when I'm running 5e, I have to absolutely inundate my parties with opponents, or have a lot of environmental stuff stacked against them. Any kind of verisimilitude really works against me as a DM. Having small encounters that make sense for the setting. I could put the king in his throne room with 150 guards, and make sure that you're absolutely outnumbered action economy. But if I have him in there with a realistic number of guards and some extra nobles, and you decide you want to fight him, it's a cakewalk. Just like with this high priest and the 2 acolytes. I mean, that's a lot of spellcasting power. They got one spell off before they were dead.
The key turning point, I think, this is what cost the fighter his life in this one. The enemy at the end had a conjure ooze ability. He could create
Zargon or whatever his name is.
It was Zargon, yes. Yeah. But I changed him to a lizard-like creature to fit my own setting.
Yeah.
I called him Drazil, which was lizard backwards.
Hey, how often did they do that in the original book?
Exactly. And he summoned a black pudding early on as the enemy fighter. He casts transmute rock to mud so that they can't get to him very quickly, and then he dropped a black pudding right in the middle of all the fighter type characters to occupy them so he could keep flinging his various other powers at them. And the party's fighter then turned round and used his 2 attacks with a bladed weapon without thinking against the black pudding, which carved it into 3 black puddings.
Oh, yeah.
And okay, they're now easier to kill, but it attacks 3 times now. And one of those 3 then goes and hits him and rolls a 20 and thus causes double damage, and which included 8d8 acid damage.
Jesus.
Oh.
So that fighter went splat.
Yeah.
That fighter went splat.
Don't feel too bad about your god's name, because I also have a dragon in my setting named Gigaragax.
Gigaragax.
He's the most powerful dragon in my current campaign is Gigaragax.
The mist dragon in my campaign is called Akoen Spar, which is an anagram of ocean spray.
There you go. Why not?
Well, you know what? And if you get really clever players, they'll pick up on this too.
Yeah,
and that's why I put it in there. I mean, I've made I've got a sort of mini campaign, love letter adventure. I'm building this whole adventure that is absolutely just stolen whole cloth from several movies from the late 70s throughout the 80s fantasy movies. It's got everything from Dragon Slayer to Kroll to the Neverending Story to Zardoz to everything in it, and it's all under the guise of actual D&D lore, and nothing's actually called what it is. But I made it because my friends who I'm going to be playing with will be like, "Oh, those are like those guys from the Beastmaster."
While we've been chatting away, I have been just messaging one of our regulars, and there's another item being added to next week's prize draw.
Cool.
So I want to say thank you to a grumpy old slant. Good man.
Yeah. Awesome.
What is he throwing in?
A copy of S3 Expedition to the Barrier Peaks.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
So,
And then they can get that one. Then they can.
module.
I have never played. That was one I never saw. To be fair, it's most of the modules I picked up was when I was in Germany, and whatever they sold at the PX is what we bought. And we'd have to go all over Europe to find the PX that would have the one module that you wanted.
Yeah, it was buying from shops even locally in the Northwest. I mean, the Northwest is probably Pacific Northwest is one of the farthest corners of the universe in the U.S. you could be to get gaming stuff. I mean, we had some good shops, but it came down to they might have one module. Getting those series modules sucked.
Yes,
That's why the only time we ever played we played against the Giants, but I don't think any of us ever saw the individual modules or whatever.
I remember playing against the Giants D1 through 3.
Yeah,
because they were put together, and then somehow I found D1-2, D3. But I mean, it took like 2 years to find it because they would be spread out. So it would be the Queen of the Demon Web pits. Okay, I found that one.
That was the first one guy in my group found, and then he's like, "Oh my God, there's this whole thing of adventures," and it was this quest for him to try and get everything that led up to that.
I'm just going to leave you pair to play nicely for a minute or two because I need to go and find get another cold drink.
Sure.
Just bear with me while I
Oh no,
Nuke
I
the
see.
bot.
I didn't want to do that.
I see.
I just want to ban. There we go. Block the user. Yeah, blocked. Okay, I'm just going to get a cold drink because my stomach is now well and truly on fire, and I have run out of drink, and I just need to sort of
Apple cider vinegar. It'll help.
Yeah, it's going to cause me to burp a fair bit because there is a fair bit of gas appearing in the stomach now.
As long as you can do it to some tune, and we have to guess the tune.
Mark's joined us. Mark Hill. I think you might have missed the fun earlier. But yeah, I will snip out the section where I ate the reaper.
Okay.
So people can watch that section. I'm just going to go get a drink. Bear with me.
So,
I remember I was in Radcliffe, Kentucky, and we're talking 9,000 people plus a military base. And that was the only thing. Like, oh, I found this module. So when I see people talk about Traveler, I think I was in my 30s by the time I actually saw Traveler in that I could buy it. Well, no, that's not fair. I was in Orlando, but other than Orlando, it wasn't until I moved into another big city that I was ever able to find certain modules.
Yeah, I was pretty lucky. I had we collectively, us as a gaming group of kids ranging anywhere from 8 to I think 14 was the group that started, because it was like us and some older brothers and some of their older brothers, kind of thing. And but we had an adult gamer in our circle. He was this bachelor dude who was a friend of of our parents, and he had a good paying job and a big house. And you'd go over to his house and he'd be like playing D&D or introducing us to cool board games and stuff. And he was just this stoner guy in early IT. Was just like really, really nice guy. And you do yard work for him so you could go buy miniatures or modules and stuff. But yeah, he was really cool because he supported our gaming hobby and our gaming habit. So
I remember because when I was in Germany, there was the ones of us below 10, because you had to wait until you were 10 to get an ID card to buy anything at the military base. So, and of course we're in Germany, so that's about the only place we could buy anything in English. So we had that. So there were those of us below 10, and then we had the teenagers that were like 13 and above. And so that was the big gap between us. So that's what we go through. So we come up like, I created this coolest character ever. And they went, you did not kill Lolth because she would have had all these guards and everything else. Yeah, but mechanically we won.
Yeah, I remember getting in 6th grade, getting into an arms race with my cousin with our 2 kingdoms, and like coming up with the basic stuff like, well, I'm gonna arm all of my missile troops with wands of fireballs, and then he's like, I created an aircraft carrier that's pulled by sea serpents and has chariots with wings of flying, and I'm like, all right, probably the highest fantasy campaign I've ever played in.
Well, I remember, when the DM doesn't say no. So of course we were playing. I think I grabbed Oriental Adventure, so I was a Korobokuru, Bushi, and then these other guys were Cavaliers, and boy, we hated each other at school. I mean, he picked on me, and I was pissed off. Anyway, his character gets bitten by a giant spider, and the DM's all happy that he's going to kill his character off. And I said, but I've got herbalism, and I can allow him, and I have this, and I pulled out whatever the book was. Look, I have this herb that allows it to suck off poison so he can get a second one. And he rolls and he saves, and he grabs me and says, I love you, man. I love you.
I committed the ultimate sin in Oriental Adventures. So remember back in Oriental Adventures, you had the honor rules, right? And some of the honor rules actually made you keep things secret from players. And I was the DM, so this is a really high sin for me anyways. So we're making characters, and one of my players decides he's going to make a ninja, but that ninja is masquerading as a geisha, right? That's the cover. And so we're going over the intro to the start of the campaign, and I'm doing the usual, like, just double check, kind of checklisting. Okay, you're playing such a, and I blurt out, and you're playing a ninja.
Oh no!
And in the old honor rules, if the ninja got found out, he's like, minus all of his honor, and you must commit seppuku.
Oh,
I'm like,
Oh.
he's like, thanks, man. I'm like, dude, I am such an ass.
This is the one thing that I think that John unfortunately missed is if you remember the old Dragon magazines when they used to have just their little board game in the center, the center inserts. Those were some awesome, just little games in there.
Yeah.
And what was there was one that everyone jokes about where you use Play-Doh as monsters.
Claydonia.
Yeah.
They actually had 2 articles that was so popular. It started as a convention game, and it was so great. You were given a tub of Play-Doh and 5 minutes to build your Claydonian. And you could reserve some of your stuff off to the side if you wanted missile weapons. And then there was a checklist of going down to see what you built. And what you built gave you your abilities. If it had no legs, you could only move X amount. If it had legs, you could move X amount per pair of legs. And it was just this brilliant little fun system. I've played it a couple of times with my kids as they were growing up.
Well, the other one was
a copy of that because we've got. It's probably very, very dry now. My kids' old Play-Dohs are up in the attic somewhere, I think.
Yeah, but it was a fun one. Claydonia.
Well, and some of the attacks were like, take your fist and smash it.
That was like the ultimate attack. It was a crunch or whatever. And there's another one's like drop your little missiles from up above or throw them. Or
it was. I think it was. If you smash it, and it still looks like it's can move. It still lives. There's some weird things. It was just a lot
pure
of
fun. Yeah. But there was lots of those little board games in there. I think like even games like Snit's Revenge and Awful Green Things may have even started like that.
They had one that was like and I thought they were brilliant little games. I think this is one of the things that why I stopped getting Dragon magazines when they stopped having articles and these little games in there. Because I bought it because they had the cartoons in the back. Sometimes I'd have my mother do the crossword puzzles. Some of the paranoia stuff that was in there. It had all these different articles. It wasn't
when it was more of a variety magazine.
Yes.
It might pull in stuff for other game systems even. Kind of like early White Dwarf versus catalog for Games Workshop White Dwarf.
Yeah. And it was great for that. And that's how I said, what is this game called Roll Master? It must be out there forever. And Claw Master and
or Middle Earth role playing, when it first came out, and all that old, or Aftermath. Remember the ads for Aftermath you'd always see? Because I was a big Gamma World guy, and I'm like, Aftermath, is this much better? Or then you'd see, although Aftermath, when I actually got to play it, was much more boring.
Somebody win a Middle Earth thing.
Nice,
dagger lad.
And then I see right here where they're talking about the comics. Just the little comics, and then they had Snarf, which was the cereal.
Phineas Fingers.
Yeah,
one of the early ones.
It was supposed to be only 12. Well, I remember one of them where they're showing 2 ghosts and they had the beautiful fighter going across. She said, "Do you know what I would do with her when I was alive?" The other guy goes, "No." He says, "Well, neither do I. I need someone to tell me."
And Wormy was another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and some good art. I mean, even when you got the Phil Foglio stuff, in there too. Yeah.
I love some of the, but it was the non-traditional stuff that was because you could the board games. It was just like, oh, I just take the little insert which had the little cardboard, super thin cardboard insert. You lay it down, and then it had or you cut it out. And you have
cut out the chits and all of that. Yeah. It was great for gaming groups too, because here's your diversion when you're tired, when you need a break. You can just build up a library of those.
I don't know what happened to those games, but I really wish they would bring stuff out like that again. And
there's a lot of stuff from back in the day that I wish they would revisit. I mean, people keep talking about, is WotC ever gonna look into doing any of the other TSR games? Yeah. The answer to that is probably no, because 5e is such a huge revenue stream. So,
and I would prefer to a lot of the old settings in games. I'd like them to be left alone as they were.
Well, the nice thing is, even if they do new stuff for them, you can always play the old versions. So.
Of course, you can. Yeah.
They've officially come out with Spelljammer now.
Well, I mean, I hear something like they talk about Star Frontiers. I mean, I don't know if you were mentioning this when we were talking in Discord, or if it was someone else. They said, "Oh yeah, we love to do it, but we don't want to." And it's kind of it's like the Duke Nukem of video games, where no one wants to. They all want to bring it out, but then no one wants to actually do anything with it. And this, well, we don't want to bring it out to bring those old players. I said, well, you're missing out a lot on that. So
yeah, I mean, the best they've done now is, I mean, this was already done in second edition when Spelljammer came out, or was it first edition still? It was at that weird transition point where they were doing all those box sets.
Spelljammer was second. It was early second.
They did bring all the core races from Star Frontiers into Spelljammer as monsters originally back in second edition. They had actually kind of paraphrased them. Of course, Spelljammer pulled in things from everywhere. There's stuff from anime in there. They have a version of the alien from the Alien movies in there, except for instead of coming in on the spaceship inside somebody's chest, it comes in a treasure chest because the egg looks like a big diamond, and then it hatches in your treasure vault.
I think I got the Spelljammer set, and I looked at it and said, "Oh no, this is bad." We
liked it.
Well, I mean, I like the old, the hardback editions really right up until second edition came out, and then I some people hate it, but I did like the I guess they're the black books and the bluish books and the green books. I thought those were actually pretty good.
Oh, the historical books and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like the historical books. I enjoy the stuff that had like catacombs, and then instead of having everything into the Dungeon Master's Guide, they put it out like, oh, you want to create a castle? Here's how you do this. Here's how you do that. And I liked those. I just wish, but then it got bloated into all the other.
These ones.
Yes. Those I enjoyed.
I mean, I do like the fact that I did like the other settings because I mean, it gave you other ways to play D&D. If you wanted something very John Carter-ish, then go ahead and play Dark Sun. If you want something very swashbuckly and fantastical, play Spelljammer. But you could just play all of that and play Mystara. So
yeah, well, Mystara was it was a bit of everything, wasn't it? It was.
Somebody made a really good case for, and I kind of agree that Mystara may be the actual best campaign setting for D&D. Just in terms of the amount of content that was, the level of detail for the setting, and just how much how developed it was, but also how open it was. But
all that detail. I mean, I'd moved away from BECME basic D&D when all that detail came out, because that was late 80s, early 90s, wasn't it? The Gazetteers, and I've heard so many good things about that series. There was about 10 or 12 or 13 of them. There was a lot of them, weren't there? I never got any of them.
I will say this much, which is great that WotC did provide that on Drive-Thru RPG. We can now get them in the PDF format.
Yeah. I actually really kind of want to pick up the Gazetteers just so I can have them. They're one of those things I always wanted to have anyways. There's a period where most of the D&D stuff that I had access to wasn't mine. I had a buddy who had way more money than I did. And so any new box set that came out, he would buy. And, it was just, he was wanting to play it all.
He was like that friend who was old enough to buy beer and cigarettes.
Yeah.
Or who looked old enough to buy beer and cigarettes.
Yeah, he had a mom who would just throw cash at him because she was never home. So.
Oh. In the meantime, I remember walking 2.5 miles to the mall, grabbing whatever book, and then walking 2.5 miles back, which doesn't sound that bad until you start looking at that it's the middle of Texas during the summer. And I could go pretty fast. I think it was 2 miles one way and 2 miles back. And somehow I could do round trip in under an hour and get the book I wanted. So
and kept you fit as well.
Yeah. We would ride our bikes all over the place to the hobby shops and occasionally get rides or maybe engage in mass transit and then walk the rest of the way. But so we had a couple of, like I mentioned earlier, we had a couple of good shops, but it was very hit and miss what they had. But there's a lot of stuff that I never got a chance to pick up back in the day, or that this is the other dreadful part. There was a period where I got rid of a bunch of it.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, and there was also the worst one I think I mentioned before is when I transitioned from the bachelor pad with my buddies to moving in with my wife. Yeah, I couldn't get my stuff out of there immediately when I first moved, and they're like always like, "Oh, well, come back whenever you want to. We're still friends." And every time I like, "Hey, I want to come by and get my stuff," they're like, "Well, we're not there." And I'm like, "What? You don't trust me? I've only been living for like 10 years, dude." They're like, "Well, our stuff is so mixed together. We want to make sure you don't take something that's ours." I'm like, I literally live 3 blocks away from you now. If I miss something, just call me. And then my buddy lost the house and didn't tell me to come get my stuff.
Oh no!
Yeah, he got sold he's one of those guys who got hit with the predatory mortgages back in the 90s. You know. So
Gingerbeard's back again.
Oh,
he
fantastic.
has returned.
Oh. How's it going, everyone?
Good.
Fine.
Geek's
I
not
survived.
So yeah, I'm trying to think of other. But I part of me wants to go back and buy the PDFs, and I can't explain why. Why is it so hard to buy $100 worth of PDFs? But I'm more than willing to spend like $200 on whatever Kickstarter comes out.
The ability to hold something in your hand.
Yeah, and I know there's still a few items left, but I went and grabbed Mutant Chronicles 2D20 because they were on dirt cheap, like $1.24 per book for physical copy, and then they give you the PDF on top of that.
Oh, jeez.
I was like, because they lost the license, so they have to get rid of all of it. So I'm going, oh, cool. So I bought like 15 books, and I think it was like $28 for shipping and handling, and 16 books for somewhere around, $30, and go, okay.
Jeez.
I mean, I like what Chaosium do. When if you buy directly from Chaosium, you get a free PDF with every hardback you buy from them.
Yeah, I've always thought that if I'm going to buy your physical book, give me a PDF.
But I will say now, I've bought a number of books from them, and I've downloaded the PDFs that are mine that I've paid for as a result. And I don't think I've ever opened those PDFs because I've got the books.
I use the PDFs when I'm running because I'm often running virtually now. So
I got to say one bad thing about Monty Cook, who has some of the best PDFs. If anyone ever wants to create their own game, go pick up a Monty Cook PDF to see how they do it for their cipher or system or whatever, because that is hyperlinked to an extreme just to see the way things should be done. I mean, I was amazed on just how well they did that. But if you buy the physical copy, you don't get a PDF with it. Like, really? Come on.
Yeah, that kind of hyperlinking is the type of stuff you can only do if you pay somebody. Because you're not doing that on self-publishing.
But for self-publishing, once you see it, you get so spoiled from that going to the other things. But you're right; it is kind of in there. I did it for work whenever I was doing reports. But I will say this much: is Free League. If you buy anything, their customer service is top notch.
Free League, yeah.
Yeah, I had one time where I said, "Where are my books? They aren't there." They came in. She said, "Hey, we don't have this book anymore. I'll give you a refund." And then the books came like 2 days later. And now I know they're being shipped over from Sweden. So I immediately emailed her and said, "Hey, look, I got this. You don't have to do it. I did get this. How do you want to work it out?" And she said, "Just keep the refund for the books we said we didn't have." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Can't complain about. Can't complain.
Yeah, I've had some actually. I mean, while I'm not a huge fan of the company, I mean, GW is kind of like that too in miniature side. My buddy's like, I ordered this box set from you guys, like, they're $100 plus box sets, and it's like, and similar thing. They're like, "Oh, sorry, the order didn't go through," and he had the same thing happen, and they're like, "Just keep both of them." He's like, "Okay."
But it's little stuff like that actually makes me a lot more loyal to the games. But I have, like I said, every time I've interacted with Free League, they've been top notch, have resolved any problems. But I always try being fair. Hey, I got this. You sent too many, or you sent this. How do you want to handle it? And they're like, "Well, just keep the spares." Okay.
Yeah. Got to give them a chance at least. So.
I mean, Games Workshop did something similar. I work in a shop, and it's a vaping shop, and Games Workshop noticed that there were quite a lot of gamers who vaped, so they were trying to get into a lot of vaping shops. So we had a phone call from a Games Workshop rep, and he said, "Would you be interested in having a corner of your shop with some Games Workshop stuff in?" And I was like, "Well, I'm interested because I'm a gamer." None of the other staff there had any interest whatsoever, but the gaffer was thinking, "Well, maybe we could do this." They said, "Okay, well, we'll send you some samples." So they sent us all this stuff, and the gaffer eventually goes, "Well, it's only John who's interested. So if any potential customers come in when one of the other staff members is there, are there, they're going to know nothing about the products whatsoever. So that sort of limits when customers can get any help or whatever. So we're not going to do it." And I was like, "Oh well, that's a shame," because I was quite looking forward to that. And so Games Workshop phoned us up. I said, "Well, the gaffer's actually he has said no," and they were like, "Oh well, we'll keep all the stuff we sent." And there was 5 or 6 boxes of figures and paints and all sorts of that. Oh,
I gotta say, having produced miniatures myself, the margins that GW.
No, I get it.
Criminal. It's criminal. I mean, literally, it is. I mean, even for metal, because I've only ever produced in metal. You know, my figures are 25 cents a piece after labor and materials and everything. And the historical companies do it at a much lower. Now, granted, they have a bigger market. If you can imagine, there's actually there are miniatures markets bigger than Games Workshop. It's just they're the biggest like independent game market. But you look at War Games Atlantic, they're happy to sell you 40 Dark Age Irish for less than 30. And Games Workshop, here's 16 guys for $52. But they're snazzy hard plastic. I'm like everybody else is. I just bought Victrix Normans, and I bought 60 of them for $40, and they're just as crisp as anything out of Games Workshop. So, no.
I bought the.
But I don't want to bag on games. It's just like talking about like customer service. Yeah, their customer service is great, and they can afford to give that stuff away because honestly, they're making so much on that stuff.
Their margins are huge. Yeah,
I will. Sorry to cut across you, Abidal. No. I mean, that is a very British thing. Like, so when the COVID hit over here, like the government gave funding to all the businesses to keep things going. Games Workshop paid back all their funding, and I know, like people say, like, because well, obviously everyone was stuck inside, so Games Workshop had a massive like boom in people buying shit. But it was kind of cool. And also Games Workshop are based in Nottingham, which Geek can confirm is probably a big shithole.
It's also
I appreciate that they've always stayed in Nottingham because that is a big industry for a place in the UK that doesn't really get much.
Nottingham, as far as I understand it from a lot of other creators, has kind of become this weird sort of Nashville for miniatures companies. Yeah, it's like Annie from Bad Squiddo Games. She's like, and such from GW showed up and brought me soup when I was sick. And I'm like, okay. She's like, yeah, he lives down the block. I'm like, I'm kind of jealous. But I mean, I read somewhere that GW's net worth is larger than the entire British fisheries or UK fisheries or something like that.
I wouldn't be surprised. Nottingham's basically good for one place, and that's and I don't know if it's good anymore, but Rock City used to be a good place to go to watch bands. It's a big club in Nottingham. I had some good nights out in Rock City.
Nottingham used to have the highest gun crime in the UK,
which is impressive for a country that doesn't have guns.
Yeah,
but, well, it has guns, but what I mean.
I think Birmingham's overtaken actually.
Yeah, we've got a few areas that aren't great in
Birmingham, known
Birmingham.
as Detroit.
Birmingham isn't as, but genuinely, Birmingham isn't as bad as I've seen the US media painted as.
Well, yeah, I mean, media in general over here likes to paint everything huge. Like, I'm sure you guys all saw, maybe you didn't over there, but like the riots in Portland and how the city was in flames. It's like a block and a half that was damaged in the riots. And they weren't riots. Well, I'm not going to get political, but there's a lot to be said for why there were riots and where they were and to what extent they were huge. My kids were out protesting, and I had no problem with them staying the night out at this park in Seattle that was a cesspool of blah blah blah. And I'm like, my 17-year-old is there overnight. I don't care. It's like I've literally been down there and walked around there and said, "Hey, how's it going?" Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of that. It's just, okay, where are you? Where do you want to be? And to be fair, I'm out of a big city for the most part. I'm a medium city, and it's like, people are like, oh, there's bad crime. Well, it depends on where you live and what are you doing and what time of the day.
I mean, I live in St. Louis now, right? Which is like murder capital of the country, evidently. But that depends on which neighborhood you're in. I live one kind of township south of Ferguson, where of course, a few years back we had the big to do there, and but the neighborhood itself, sans that particular reputation that the media gave it, it's a great neighborhood. Before that incident and after, yeah,
I mean,
that's where that happened.
A lot's made of knife crime in Britain, but it is still so minor that if a knife attack happens, it makes the news, and it's almost always associated with rival gangs of teens who are having the "my dad's bigger than your dad" type argument. And I've never seen a knife pulled on anyone, and I live in Birmingham, which is painted as being a hole.
I live in suburbia. I lived in suburbia in the Pacific Northwest, and I've had a gun pulled on me 3 times, but all of them by people I knew and considered friends.
I've seen guns 3 times in my life. One of them belongs to my brother, who's got a license to shoot clay pigeons and occasionally rabbits on farmers' lands. And I've seen that. I've seen his gun once, and it is so well locked away that it takes him half an hour to reach it.
Yeah, my 3 instances were odd, because the first one is the classic after school special story that you used to see back in the 80s, in a very special after school. At my friend's house, and he's upstairs somewhere in his house, and he's like, "Hey Eli, come here, I want to show you something." And I go up there and come through the door to the room, and he's got his dad's 44 pointing in my direction. I'm like, I almost like, you fucker, put that away. What the hell? Right? And then the second time I walk into the local game store of all places and come up behind my friend, and I flip his hat off his head. I'm like, "Hey, dumbass, what's up?" And so he pulls his gun out of his shoulder rig and puts it under my chin. I'm like, what the fuck, man? And later on, people are like, "Why didn't you kick his ass?" Well, he did have a gun. And then the third time I
had to go at clay pigeon. I had to go at clay pigeon shooting. So there, I've seen a gun there and fired a shotgun. I wasn't very accurate. And the other time was actually about 3 weeks ago, when I was driving home from work, and the car on the opposite side of the road suddenly pulled in front of another car, and armed police officers got out of it. So I guess they were arresting somebody.
So I was 14 years old, and they gave me an M16 to go shoot with the Army, and an M60. So that was the only time I fired an automatic weapon for that. And then but talking about crime, and it sounds kind of weird, there were places in Dallas I felt worse than when I was in Afghanistan. even though they were shooting mortars where I felt safer in Afghanistan because they were terrible shots.
Well, I mean, at its worst in LA, there were neighborhoods that the cops just wouldn't patrol anymore because rockets were getting fired at their cars.
I heard one thing, which I was in Germany, and as much as people talk about how dangerous the U.S. is, it always depends on where you are and when. But I used to come home late at night and pass by the drug dealers. I saw someone get beaten with a baseball bat one time. A gang come up and beat another lady. It was just, I said, I never saw this in the United States, oddly enough. And again, it just depends on where you are. And like you said, a lot of it's rival gangs over drugs or
your jerk friends who just have a short man complex. The third instance to complete the story was I almost got shot on my 27th birthday. I come home late at night, walk into the door, and the first thing I hear is the slide on a pistol go back somewhere in my house. But what's funny is your senses are so attuned immediately. I'm like, I know whose gun that was, what room it came from, blah, blah. I'm like calling out to my buddy. I'm like, dude, it's just me. I'm coming home. And, and I was a little drunk when I got back, and so I was like rattling at the door, so it sounded like it was fiddling. He comes out around the corner, he's in his underwear, he's like, dude, I almost shot you, you don't understand. He's like, we went to bed, and the next day he's like, all right, you have to understand, after you had left to go hang out with your friends for your birthday, which is, why my best friend isn't doing anything for my birthday is another story. But he's like, so I'm off with my other friends. He's like, after you left, I was pulling out in my truck, and this car clipped to the back of my truck, and I got out to do the insurance thing, and it was this woman, and she was really scared. And then she drove off and did the thing, and when I came back, there was this car full of dudes who were there, and they were actually threatening me and stuff, saying, if you call the police and file this report, we're going to kick your ass. And he's like, and I swear to God, dude, they were driving the same car that dropped you off in the middle of the night. So I'm sitting here in the middle of the night, and I see this car come into the driveway, and then somebody's rattling at the door. He's like, I was totally sure I was going to get killed. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I understand, but I'd like to live to see 30.
So I'm going to have one that's not, it was about a BB gun. So I get this phone call while I'm at work, and I hear this crying from my son's mother. And I'm like, okay. And all I hear, the first words out of her mouth were, he's okay. Okay, I'll just let the rest of it go on. And she goes over and explains on how the goats were in her garden, and she pulled out the BB gun and aimed at the goats to pop him in the butt. And my son took off running from behind her. And he said, and I saw him, and I'm pulling the trigger, and it's over, and he looks right at me, and she nails him right in the forehead right there with the BB gun.
One of those.
And she suddenly starts saying, I almost got his eyes. All I could hear was, he's fine. And she said, blood's running down his nose, and he comes over to hug her. He's like, Mommy, I'm okay. I'm okay, Mommy. It's all right. And she's like bawling. And she said, I almost got his eye. And I went, well, you didn't, so that's fine. And she said, oh my God. And I said, okay, well, that'll learn him. And then the next words out of her mouth were, I made fun of Dick Cheney for shooting, while he was hunting. He said, I understand now. And she's very liberal. Anyway, I had to laugh at the whole thing. And so she's going through that. I talked to him. He's like, well, it's fine. You just had he still has a little scar right there. Of course, he said, don't tell anybody. Yeah, all right, sure.
Yeah. So many stories.
Tell all my coworkers. And then I said, all right. I said, well, I think it's time to take him to the gun range so he can learn. So I set up an appointment, went down there, took him down. They had all the silencers and everything else. He shot a few pistols, and he went over the safety rules. And that's been about and his mother was like, no, my baby, you can't do this. So he's 7 years old. At 8 years old, I buy him a gun for his size so I can take him shooting with me. And that was but I have a .308, and it's so loud. He's like, "Daddy, it shakes my whole body." And he's like, "No, I don't want to play. I don't want to play." It's like anytime you want to go to the range, just let me know.
Yeah,
And
all my kids got an actual gun education too, even though none of them are interested in guns, and nor I don't even own guns. But there's better things to spend money on, like gaming stuff. But but no, like both. But so my oldest is technically my stepkid, and his dad and I are friends because we decided early on, we're like, we'd be friends if we met in any other circumstance. Why not just be friends, right?
Sure.
But he's a gun guy. So when my kids have gotten old enough, I'm just like, please take them out, because I remember those stories from back when I was younger, like I was just telling. I'm like, I don't want that to happen with them. I want them to know how to respect it and stuff like that. But yeah, so and neither of them has any interest in owning a gun. They're just like, and I'm a pretty liberal guy too. My it's like, but at the same time, I remember my buddy turning 18 and going immediately to the gun show, picking up an AR-15 and going out to the gravel pits and shooting about 300 rounds of ammunition that we also bought at the gun show.
Here's the thing that people forget about is, you look at it and say, okay, every time I pull the trigger, that's $1.25, if not more. I said, well, I like the 22, but here's the funny thing is my son is not interested in it and his mother will sometimes do it, but I'm like, look, I'd like to make sure where they are, they're out in the middle of nowhere. I said, no one's coming to get them if they're out on their own, but they've had problems with dogs and hawks and all sorts of stuff. Like you got to put down an animal. Said, might as well have it out there. And people forget that when you live in the country, it's a whole different world.
I used to get mad at my parents because they refused to get a real gun when we owned a farm. I'm like, what happens when one of the animals is injured and dead? I'm like, how are we going to put them out of their misery? I had to club a cat to death. It was horrible because the cat got injured. I'm like, I remember walking back up to the house. I'm like, face is flecked and red. And my parents are like, are you okay? I'm just like, just not right now. It's like, no, never again.
There were horses that they had to shoot. Exactly like you're saying. There was bobcats that kept taking out their chickens.
Yeah, we had coyotes would come through. Yeah. The neighbor's dog came and killed 3 of our sheep.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I knew it was a dog because it hadn't eaten anything. It just mutilated them. That's usually a good sign of a dog. We had a horse falter in the mud and drown in the mud because nobody could put him out of his misery.
Oh, yeah.
And on this wonderfully uplifting episode of Yield Geek, sorry.
Yeah. Speaking of, like, Yield Geek, does one of us have to come up and put you out of your misery? Because I don't want to think what Uranus is going to be like tomorrow morning.
I should be. I will be alone at work, which was a blessing. And I have a feeling the back in 10 minutes sign might be on the door of the shop quite frequently.
He's going to have one of those sprays that he can, he's going to have like a bidet spray that just shoots out milk. That way he'll be okay.
But he's lactose intolerant. So.
Well, that's only if he ingests it.
That'll also be the day that his friend comes by with like a really delicious curry. Hey man, I was thinking about you bringing some lunch.
I'm not having anything spicy tomorrow at all. I currently feel like I do have a furnace in my stomach. It's not unpleasant most of the time, but occasionally the stomach just goes. And it's like, okay, just gonna remind you of you're not supposed to do that. Yeah.
Getting old sucks sometimes too. Like I was just griping to my wife on a similar note. I'm like, they put me on a new cholesterol medicine, and now my stomach isn't good. I'm like, I'm old. My medications are causing things I need medication for. Sorry, my chair is trying to eat my headset.
I don't know how old Ginger here, but getting close to 50 here, and I went, okay, I'll just. I went over and had my cholesterol checked, and they all said, do not eat these foods. I said, well, those are all the foods I eat, and they're like, your cholesterol's wonderful. All right, how how much steak should you have? I said, well, I eat like 10 pounds of red meat a week, and my cholesterol is like 123.
Well, most of that's all genetics, anyways. But so
I know. Well, I had one. Well, my triglycerides.
I'm just an old fat nerd who's never had a really physical life, anyways. So
I think
that's what it is for me.
The one that gets me is I remember like throughout my 20s, I was living with my dad because we were both working on the same building site, and he had to get like decaf coffee and tea bags, and I would laugh at him because it's like, "Oh, Dad, you're a fucking loser, decaf. What are you doing?" And now I've reached that point where I can't drink anything but decaf after like midday, or it'll really fuck me up. My prostate will feel like it's exploding. So yeah.
And you're 10 years younger than me, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm 40. So.
Yeah, 10 years
my
younger.
problem was growing up on a farm and then failing to adjust my habits when I got off the farm. I was young for a while, and so I could still keep eating like I did on the farm. And then, it's a lot easier to eat a ton of stuff when you're going to go out and work.
My problem at the moment is, I'd got myself into a routine where I was training 2 or 3 nights a week, and maintaining a very, very healthy weight. I was physically very fit. This is when I was 48. I was, in American terms, I was about 160 pounds, 30-inch waist, and doing my judo regularly. To get a judo black belt, you've got to do 5 fights, 3 of which are in a row, one after the other, up to 4 minutes. And that is tough. And I was able to do all that. And then, of course, lockdowns and things came along. And I'd been put on medication for ADHD a couple of years earlier. And with a combination of not training, continuing to eat as I was when I was training regularly, and the ADHD medication kept my weight down. But then, because I wasn't training, my blood, and I don't cope with change very well, my blood pressure went up from 100/70, which is low, to pushing 150/110.
Whoa. Yeah.
In the space of a year. So they had to take me off the medication because they said, "Oh, okay, you're now at a bit of a stroke risk." And they took me off the medication, which meant my metabolism slowed. I was getting no exercise. I was still eating, and I promptly put on about 25 to 30 pounds like that. Bang. Jeez. And I've not shifted any of it since. I've tried. They tried to put me back on the medication, and it didn't work because it caused issues up here, unfortunately. And now I'm on those instead, which is for something else. And yeah, the weight is now all sat around my gut. And I look down, and it's just so depressing because 2 years ago, I had 2 years ago, I was proud to walk around on a beach, and I was thinking, I'm going to be a 50-year-old who is not a 50-year-old nerd who is not afraid to get his top off on the beach because I've got no gut. And now it's like, oh God, look at that.
This sounds bad. So, I was in Afghanistan about 10 years ago, and as a civilian, so we're going over and we're working out, and I looked over and I said, man, I can feel that my pants are getting tighter around my thighs. I said, so I know I'm gaining some muscle. In the meantime, I'm getting this big roll around my stomach as well. So what the hell? And I gained like 30 pounds while I was over there. And then I come home where you have all the food that's available and whatever you want. And I lost it. I was like, wow, that's kind of weird.
I've discovered cooking in my 40s and 50s and really got into it, which is the wrong time to get into cooking. I'm like, I can make delicious food now and whatever I want. And now I'm not in a position, because when I was a kid, living on the farm, never got below 180, but I also had like a 34-inch waist, so and it's
That's the joy, man. It's like my wife is not allowed to cook because I fucking love cooking every night.
Yeah, I do all the cooking
Yeah,
too.
it's just like I don't know.
Getting to St. Louis was tricky for me because I'm used to being up on the Pacific where there's a lot of Asian ingredients available, and now I'm in the middle of the country, and that's been a little trickier. We found some grocery stores and stuff that carry the stuff, but it's not everywhere.
So lazy cooking, sous vide. Just cook a big steak and just throw it on a pan real fast to give it a nice sear, and that's a good meal right there.
I don't eat a lot of red meat these days.
It's another age thing. Like,
No, actually, it's
No?
my wife and I shifted away from red meat a long time ago. Went to like chicken and pork and stuff. I would eat a lot more fish, but she can't stand it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, similar. Like because
living in the Pacific Northwest, the land of salmon and Alaska fishery and all of that was just, and not being able to, and having a wife who wasn't into, I mean, I could still eat it, obviously.
yeah.
My oldest actually liked fish, and so we had this thing called fish buddies. Like on paydays, we'd go out and grab fish.
I grew up in the South, so when I started hearing everyone talk about the Pacific Northwest, which steams everything, and in the South they fry everything, I was going, oh, and they're like, oh, we have the greatest crab, Dungeness crab, and I said, no, blue shell crab for me. That's my favorite.
Yeah, we also have access to Alaskan king crab real easy because all the fisheries come down through us too. Well, not us, but back when I was there. But the other thing they did up there is smoke a lot of the fish because they had adopted a lot of the native cooking styles. So yeah, like alder smoked halibut is just amazing.
Smoked fish is really
steak.
Good. I love that, but I'll be honest. I've grown up with everything fried. I'm like, everything has to be fried. If it's not breaded and fried, it's just not real. Or what's the other one that crawfish? Crawfish is the other one I love. So Cajun style foods, etouffee. That I just love. And when I went to Chicago for a couple years, I was like, you don't have any Cajun restaurants? You have things from like Ethiopia and the rest of the world.
Yeah, I just miss like one thing is like shellfish, like clams and oysters. I'm not a huge oyster fan, but in things they can be good, or smoked they're really good. But then we have gooey ducks up in the Pacific Northwest. Have you ever seen a gooey duck clam?
Like
First
huge.
of all, it'll get you a not safe for work warning if you're not careful because it looks like a phallus, but they're like that long, the meaty part of the clam.
I don't think I've ever seen a clam, but I do know that there was a euphemism for women's parts in Britain, bearded clam.
It's not unique to you there.
I think it's true of all of the English-speaking countries. I can't speak for Australia, but
so yeah, but I figured that I'll just adapt to what we have for fish here. I imagine there's got to be lots of catfish in this state.
Carp. If you like carp, there are plenty out there in the.
I'm not overly picky with fish, although oddly enough, growing up in the Pacific Northwest, I was almost a pariah because I didn't like salmon.
Oh, really?
The pink fatty fishes are not friends with my stomach. Smoked salmon is great. But
I was gonna say, yeah, it's smoked salmon. So I eat like some smoked salmon on like bagels or whatever for breakfast. So lox. But my wife, Norway, she had to go back for like 3 months last year to like her mum had some health issues. And her dad is like a fisherman in Norway. So they just ate fish for every dinner for 3 months, every single fucking day. So she cannot look at fish at the moment.
Yeah. My wife's not liking fish comes from some very odd stuff from her childhood. She actually spent a good portion of her childhood homeless and had to fish and hunt for all the meat that they ate. Literally like bow hunting at 10, and then like having to fish out of the rivers and creeks and living in an old army tent on the side of a river with her and her family. So yeah, she's definitely got some deep-seated no fish.
I
My mother can't have fish because it gives her migraines.
She got an issue with like the iodine in there, or
I don't know. She used to love fish and seafood and all of that, and now it's just pretty much steaks and chicken for her.
I think the ultimate irony is that there is a tick-borne illness in Texas that makes people allergic to beef. That if I was looking for the existence of God, that might be. I mean, where of all the places to have a tick-borne illness that makes you not able to eat beef. So,
Well, the good news is that all the fire ants have been eating all the ticks. So
there you go.
But no, my friend got COVID and he became lactose intolerant after getting COVID. It's like,
Weird.
I can't have cheese.
That's the thing about that. I mean, not to get too that virus is like everyone's like, oh, it's just a bad cough. No, man, it messes you up so bad. The the pulmonary issues and all that stuff, it just does weird things to your body. Everybody I know who's had it is like, and now I can't feel my left toe. But whatever, I mean, that's an exaggeration, but it's just like there's something that will stay with them for the rest of their life because they had it.
There's just all sorts of weird things. I mean, I'm trying to think of amberjack I liked for fish. I'll tell you what's really good is triggerfish. Again, growing up around the Gulf Coast, is we had redfish and triggerfish, which I fish for. Triggerfish tastes almost exactly like chicken. And this is from someone that has eaten all sorts of different animals. I get tired of people saying, well, it tastes just like chicken. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Rattlesnake tastes like rattlesnake.
Rattlesnake is stringy.
Actually, to be fair, I've never had rattlesnake, but bear, elk, I've had a lot of these, pretty much chamois from the Alps in Germany. Red deer, I really enjoyed red deer. So, I mean, look, they all taste different. Dove kind of tastes like steak.
So if you're playing a game of D&D, you know which creatures are edible and what they taste like and how easy they are to prepare.
What did you say tastes like steak at that last one?
Dove.
Doves?
If you've ever gone dove hunting.
They're all over my neighborhood.
Last time we went dove hunting, we shot 6 doves and we come home and there were like 20 of them just sitting on the telephone pole, the telephone
judging
wire.
You.
Yeah, really? Do you realize that I just spent 4 hours trying to hunt you guys?
Yeah.
My father went over and said, son, why didn't you shoot that dove? I said, your head was in the way, Dad. He said, well, good call.
I'm going to go to bed, but actually that is a good future topic, is that you should do because Dragonlance 2nd edition had a cookbook. Like, we could all bring recipes and
That's cool.
Speaking of Dragon Magazine, they had the one where the guy was trying to get rid of a dragon. Do you remember that? There was a story in there which I thought was actually was entertaining. The guy was talking about how this knight came in and killed this dragon and just left the body. He said, what the hell am I going to do with this? I'm not sure if you remember this.
I remember the original Draconomicon had a section on how to cook every kind of chromatic and metallic dragon. Like the only one that was inedible, I think, was green dragons because it was so inundated with like the chlorine, you couldn't eat it. But like red dragons have to have a milk bath for 3 days before they're actually edible and blah blah blah. Well, it's like the best part of the book.
Well, I want to make sure ginger beer just doesn't drop off without saying have a good night. But
good night.
Yeah, no, have a good night, and it's been good talking with you. And congratulations, John, 1K.
Thank you.
But no, the story went over and he talks about all the things he was trying to do to get rid of this dragon. And finally he said, you know what, I'm going to serve it up. And it was something like the nastiest, most foul smelling meat in the world. And so he'd advertise, get your dragon. Only the strong stomachs can get it. He said, there's no such thing as bad publicity. And so all these people were coming in. And anyway, it was an entertaining story.
I imagine it'd be like lots of half orcs and barbarians and fighters and
meat.
Well, I never got a chance to do it. We had a driver when I was in Cambodia. I said, hey, I'll take you over to have some spiders.
All right, I'm willing.
There's some things I just don't want to willingly eat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. When I was 17, I got to go over to Japan for like a month. It was cool. I was on this it wasn't a school exchange. It was a cultural exchange with a city over there. And my host family was really cool. But for like the first 3 days, they kept feeding me nothing but American food, or like American food. And some funny anecdotes out of that, like we're eating spaghetti and I'm eating it, and I noticed they're all watching me. I'm like, what? They're like, oh, you're the best fork user we've ever seen. I'm like, well, I can't use chopsticks, so we're we're even here. But I had to ask them. I'm like, can you please start cooking me Japanese food? Came over to experience your culture, and everything was great. But there was one dish, a very just unassuming dish. Texturally, I just couldn't get it down. It was some sort of chopped kelp or something like that. Little bits of kelp, but it was served chilled because it was there in August. It was like a kind of and just that slick, cold texture trying to go down the back of my throat. I'm like, I think I'm allergic. Just couldn't. I didn't want to offend them. I'm like, I think I'm allergic, and so they never served it for me again. But I'm over there. It was really cool. Actually, just to experience it. My brother went to Korea once, and he was like, I was all enjoying this banquet, and it was really cool. Is like the moment I completely dropped out of it is when I saw the prawn that I had been eating dragging itself across the table because they had been served live.
Oh, wow.
And so they had been, he had been eating it American style, which is we kind of basically pull the tail, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it still had the head and legs, and it's just pulling itself across the table. He's like, check, please.
The Cambodian, I would go there and they would have the French food, and then they would do the traditional. And so I was like, and they were small portions. So I'd be like, okay, I want one French, I want one Cambodian. That's how I'd eat while I was there I think I was there for a couple of weeks. I was sighting a bridge out to see if the military could build it. But yeah, it's always interesting on the things that go out there. And I just have to laugh at the whole thing, which is, I think my favorite's when I was in Iraq, and one of the Iraqi contractors is like, oh, all the children love this. And he pulls off the side of the road, and he starts grabbing all of these. They look almost like peanuts, and they're not quite. And he bites into one. He says, oh yeah, all the Iraqi kids eat this. So I bite into it. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. I said, do you like it, John? And he's like, no, I don't like it either. I said, then why did you give it to me anyway? But what it was is it apparently caused constipation. And what the kids would do is they would grind it up into a paste and then mix it with sugar. And so then they would eat it, and it completely constipated the kids. Yeah, I was like, what kind of suffering do you want to go through just so you can have some? I
don't know, man. Teenagers.
sorry, John. Just after we went through this whole chili stuff.
Is that the whole? It's like one of those kid dare things, almost, But
well, he said Iraqi kids eat anything, and I said, oh, okay, having been for the war, and he was it's not a Syrian. I think that, or maybe he was one of those who starts with an A. That was Christian, so they could drink alcohol, whereas the Muslims couldn't. So.
Is that the Abyssinians? No, that's North Africa.
Maybe I think the language may have been Assyrian. But it was interesting because he said, oh yeah, we live over here, and I said, oh, okay. But they wouldn't allow us to leave the dam where I was working at. But I think
some of the worst cooking I ever ran into, that was my German grandma, who she was 17 during the war and during World War II, and had, like, where my family's from in Germany is so far in East Germany that on sun maps it was in Poland. It's that far east. And like, I would go down and visit her as a kid, and it was horrible because my mom could cook well. I always brag about we grew up poor, but my mother could take, elbow macaroni and a couple cans of sauce and come up with turkey somehow. Right. And my grandmother, on the other hand, would take this beautiful chunk of meat and just boil it till it was gray,
Ooh.
and then serve it to you, and then like put the broth in something else, and it was like, and that's the survival strategy she had in post World War II Germany. Was if you could get meat, you got everything you could get out of it. It's but yeah, she used to wheel my dad around in a wheelbarrow through the rubble of Germany.
I hated German food, to be honest. And then my friend,
I love German food.
he went over and he said, "Hey, so he said, well, let's find out what type of German food you went." And he finally said, "You like Hochessen, which is the all the spiced and everything else, which was the what the nobles ate."
Yeah.
Said, well, yeah, but if it's a choice between Hungarian food and see, my family had a lot of Greek food, so I was like, oh, it's like German food but good.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend anyone that's traveling go to Hungary. That wonderful food, wonderful people. I would say
we're all talking, food, and Geek is not going to eat anything for a day.
I'll be looking at my dinner tomorrow, going, "Oh."
No, but yeah, it's it was interesting because my dad, when he got over here when he was a kid, his grandmother used to give him a whooping if he spoke German. She's like, "We're in America, we speak English." She was so done with Germany. She's like, no, because it's a weird story. Yeah, because she was an unwed mother, so she got treated poorly. And so she was just finished. She's like, our country had just ruined itself.
I will say this much: everything that people talk about how bad British food was, but we went to London, and we had really good food for the most part when we were eating in London. So we had like lamb and a few other things, all except pub food. Which, to be fair, I've had the American version of pub food, which is really good, but
it varies from pub to pub. If you go to a chain pub, it tends to be very average. But if you go to an independent pub, they'll put a lot more effort into it. And I've had some fabulous pub food. I think the American perception about British food tends to come from the fact that we had the rationing after the war, and it was all very and it was very simple. In fact, 10 years after the war, the food was terrible. But British food nowadays is we've got our own food, but obviously we've got food from all around the globe in our cities.
Yeah, you've got that wonderful fusion and just
And as Mark Hill says here in the fish and chips, if you find a good chippy, British fish and chips is just superb.
We have this cool market here in St. Louis that's like the whole world market, and it's organized by each aisle is organized by nationality, which is kind of weird because you'll find chickpeas in two different places, but it's like Mexican chickpeas versus Indian. But it's so funny, you go down like the Indian aisle and there's all the curries, and then you go down the British aisle and it's all the British curries.
Yes.
I'm like, because they're the kind of adapted curries, that kind of, and it's a really great store though, because like I said, every aisle is by nationality. It's a smaller store, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
I mean, a good British roast dinner is fantastic as well. If you get someone who really knows how to make roast potatoes crisp on the outside, fluffy on the inside, and proper really big chunky Yorkshire puddings that are cooked properly, you can't beat a British roast.
So, and I know this isn't quite British, but haggis.
Haggis is lovely.
I've never had it, so I'm just
everybody always like, oh, haggis sounds gross. I'm like, it sounds like a big sausage to me.
It's delicious. It's absolutely delicious. And black pudding as well. British black pudding is beautiful.
Just don't hit it with a sword.
Yeah, well, I can just see it. It's like, okay, I'm going to get the which one has the iron stomach, and you just go, okay, I'll eat this. But I think that's
a nice piece of Welsh lamb as well. Mm.
I wish lamb was easier to get over here. It's always so expensive.
You know what? Is years ago, and admittedly, this was what 20
I
years
love
ago.
cooking with lamb.
And I grew up where my grandparents were from Greece, so I was used to lamb, and leg of lamb was fairly cheap. It has really gone up. I'm like, this is nuts. The other one that was hard to get was cabrito, which is goat. It took me a couple years to get goat. I think I first had it when I was in Afghanistan, and then there was another one. But every time I go over to like the Mexican restaurants, it would have goat, and it would say, "Oh, well, we don't have it today." I'm like, how am I supposed to try a cabrito on this? But yeah, I've looked at that. What's interesting is the Iraqis have an equivalent of haggis as well.
I imagine that's one of those ones that's repeated a lot over various countries because it's just farmer food, basically.
We would be eating this terrible dining facility Italian, which was bland as could be. And then the Iraqis would come in and we would go every so often. They would make it, and the same thing with the Afghans. It was so nice to have like a home cooked meal that actually tasted really good. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, one of the first things I did when I made the move is I had to go restock my spice cabinet because I had a lot of stuff back in the I had to triage what went with it. So I'm like, I can buy this again, and I didn't think it would be that tricky, but we ended up having to look around a lot of places. But finally, I've got my core stuff restored, so that's good. But
I love chicken tikka masala. I actually made some, but boy, that's a lot of effort.
Yeah, it is hard to make that.
I'm not a fan of the tikka masala. I know it's sort of it's a very British Indian dish. It's too sweet for me.
I like
mine had no, and I don't know if I made it wrong, but mine didn't have any sugar in it at all. So it's a very savory rather than sweet.
I mean, most British curry houses, if you get a tikka masala, it'll have sort of cream and coconut and things like that in it, and it's quite mild. If I go out for a curry, I like one called a pathia, which is like a hot, sweet, and sour curry. That's nice. Jalfrezis are good as well. Mm-hmm. And a good old-fashioned madras, a nice madras. That's bad.
When I'm in the mood for a mild curry, I usually make like more of a Japanese curry, which is kind of rough cut, like of course chunks of potato and carrot, and then whatever meat you're gonna have, a bunch of rice. It's pretty good.
Not spicy at all. I like a Thai, and the other end of the scale is the Thai curry. Curries from Thailand. I don't need
my ass to bleed. No Thai curry for me, thank you.
I love the curries, but between the two, I like they'll talk about hot and things, but a lot of times they'll use turmeric, and that really upsets me. It goes right through my system. So sometimes it depends on how much turmeric they use, but I'm kicking myself. Boy, when I was in Afghanistan, saffron was cheap, and I wish I had gotten a lot of that.
Turmeric's meant to be good for the gut. I thought turmeric was generally meant to be really good for the gut.
Turmeric is, but if you have an issue with it,
I suppose
it shoots right through me, and it's like nope. I can take a little turmeric, but not the amounts that they would say is really healthy. Cinnamon, I have no problem with. I love saffron, but yeah, turmeric.
Yes, well, that'd be like me with milk, then I guess.
Well, and I've started trying to get more fat, so I'll try using drinking milk. I'll drink heavy cream.
Jeez,
you're trying to get fat.
No, actually, the funny thing is if you go keto, I'm trying to cut out all my carbs. So you want the high fat with some protein. So I've been trying to do that, and I'll be honest, as I noticed that when I switched over to a lot less carbohydrates and sugars, my skin improved a lot. So
yeah, I have Had to we switched over to like fat-free milk for the longest time. Nowadays, if I drink even like 2%, my gut's like, what was that? But I grew up like milk straight from the cow. It's funny. I'm gonna embarrass myself there. This joke in my family that I am the chupacabra. So, because my dad, when I was a baby, got left with me. My mom was evidently either off or whatever, and I was hungry, and he didn't know what to do. So he took me out to the barn like he did back in Germany with some of the farmer, and he latched me onto the goat.
Oh wow!
Like directly as an infant. So yes, I am the goat sucker. I'm literally a chupacabra. But no, but goat's milk was. It's funny. Growing up, I had to drink goat's milk because while I'm not lactose intolerant, I'm allergic to milk.
Oh, okay.
But I still drink it. I don't care.
So,
I was that kid who had so many allergies that it was either be the boy in the bubble or just snot a lot. But
so my ex actually, so my son's mother was milks goats by hand, and so one day I went over there to try it. I would starve to death if I had to do that, trying to milk a goat. I couldn't get anything out of, and they were more than willing. There was that one, and I will tell you this much: goats that get into pine needles give you the milk that tastes like licorice, and it's horrible.
Well, with the goat milk is it doesn't separate. It's naturally homogeneous, and so the problem is that it starts smelling off way before it goes off, because that milk fat starts to age, but it's still drinkable. But also, it will pick up any odor that's near it. If you put an improperly sealed jar of milk in a fridge with an onion, you have onion milk. If there's a male goat in season near where you're milking it, you just have to chuck that stuff out. Give it to the cats.
So it smells like rock globes.
It smells like male goat and rut.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I like goat's milk better than regular milk. But my son refuses to have it. But I also like using it for other stuff. But
it's good for cooking.
Well, my ex what she'd do is she'd just freeze it, and so as soon as that's here, you want milk here, okay.
But we had cows too, so it was often whole milk in the fridge.
Okay. What 1 second here, going over for one of my vices.
Oh.
I'm just saying I'm gonna have to end all this as soon as my kids get home. It's 12:36 at the moment here, but my kids have been at Old Trafford for the England-Austria Women's International football match tonight. So as soon as they get back, they're going to go to bed. I'll have to stop then, but I don't know exactly when they're going to be back. What was that you were showing anyway, Al?
Oh, this was the Hatch chili and sweet lime cookies.
Oh,
so Hatch chilies, huh? So a mild chili, but then with sweet lime.
It's awesome, and they can't. Though I gave one to my son's mother, and she swore I poisoned her because it's got a decent bite in the back of it, and but I love these things. That little bite just adds a little bit extra. It's just like, speaking of other things, which is the I don't care what anyone says for chocolate. I still think Mexican chocolate's the best.
I do not actually like
of the chilies I ate, you'd probably enjoy that one then, I would guess.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. That's one of those things I can't. I'll be honest. Is if I want something sweet, it has to be sweet, and I don't like mixing up savory with sweet. I just don't, for the most part. So if that's one of those things, I was like, oh, I'll add this. Oh, as a kid, I did do that one time. I was working at theater, and they asked us to make jelly sandwiches. So I got jalapeno jelly, and I put it on.
Jalapeno jelly's good.
I put it on the prop, and this kid starts eating it and didn't realize it. I wasn't there. My teacher told him this to me. She says she was eating it, and all of a sudden he goes, ah, ah, ah. And then another kid came in and said exactly like you did. Oh, this is awesome. And then she asked me to make some more, and wouldn't tell the poor actors that they were getting jalapeno jelly.
Yeah, I like sweet and savory mixed, it's something I really dig. But I'm not much of a like a sweets person in general. So like, and if I do go with sweets, it's usually fruity flavors rather than chocolate and stuff. So, but
I
My
like I said,
wife's
it's
a
not gonna,
chocoholic, so it's all chocolate in our house.
yeah, my wife is too, but she also so
I'm not a huge fan of chocolate, and I'm trying to. We'll see. I bought some farmland. I'm trying to get. We'll see what survives because we're in a drought right now. So I'm just having all these trees sitting out outside of my apartment, so I can go plant them on the my farm. But I've got some pomegranates and some jujubes, and we'll see what comes out of there. But pomegranates work pretty well. I would like to see more of those.
I am kind of thrilled because where I'm at now, evidently chilies grow really well, so I'm going to start planting them.
I wish I was in just a little further. Well, I say that because then I can grow other fruits. But I when I went to Cambodia and they gave the fresh dragon fruit, I was like, man, this is the best stuff ever. I love this. And then I come back to the United States and they've always picked them early, and so they're just, they're kind of slimy and they're terrible. I understand why people say that they want it right off the tree when it's ripe, because otherwise they just pick it early and just let it go bad.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are some things like I was watching a thing on cashews and the apples that they're attached to, and it's really weird. Like those things are so fragile that you can only ever eat them at the orchards because they immediately start to go off as soon as they're picked. Like they'll never transport anywhere. So all these orchards have these really cool specialty drinks and stuff made out of the cashew apples, and it's hard to imagine something being that delicate, but then again, I come from the land of seafood, so it shouldn't be too big of a thing. Eat this clam in the next 5 minutes or it'll kill you. But
well, I'll be honest, I've never had huckleberries, and apparently they were in season because I just came back from the Northwest.
Yeah.
And
those used to grow in my backyard. I miss that. I had to laugh, actually. I saw it. Remember sitting there watching an advertisement. It's like, now you can grow blackberries in your own yard. And I'm like, seriously? They're like selling blackberry starters. I'm like, where do you live that there's not blackberries? Because in the Northwest, if you have any land that's not covered in anything, it's more than likely going to get covered in blackberries or sumac. And, and you can just walk down any freeway and pick blackberries.
Well, blackberries are here in Texas too, so it's not just
Well, that was what was weird, is that they're like talking about like this magical fruit that you can start growing in your backyard. I'm like, and then you will have no backyard in about
they're all
a week.
over the place here. They're all over the place here as well.
Yeah. But it was so weird to watch this advertisement. I'm like, these poor people are going to buy this thing, and the next thing you know, like within a month, they're going to have no backyard.
But speaking of which, animals, everyone complains about bamboo, and I don't know. I was roped in to plant all this bamboo where my son lives. So I was planting, for his mother, and her bamboo just wouldn't grow. And finally, she got enough bamboo that it just overwhelmed the gophers. And
it's the world's fastest growing plant.
It is, but gophers can keep it in check until it gets too big. And the gophers would come up, and I swear, anyone that I never really appreciate gophers until they were coming in, and we got this stick of poisonous gas, to asphyxiate them. I stuffed it in the hole, I covered it up, lit it, made sure that I lit it and then covered it up, but I made sure it was all in there. I said, all right. And then I dug it out about 20 minutes later, and that little gopher had just pushed it out of the way and just kept running back and forth. I mean, they were hard to kill. There's another time I was putting in a fence post, and this little gopher says this is perfect to dump all of his little sand in there. So I'm just seeing these little feet just push off the sand, and they're like, "Hey, stop filling up my hole." They're tough little buggers. And of course, you can't get them because the one time that they were out there to be shot, all the chickens were around them. They're just like, ha.
Yeah.
Your brains. Well, I am gonna. My kids are back now, so everyone's going to bed here, so I'm gonna have to call it a day.
All right, congratulations, John.
Yeah,
you have a nice night.
congratulations, man. It's
Thanks
a
for
great
the
achievement.
for sticking with me while I was stuffing my face with things that are still rumbling in my stomach.
Yeah, I think we have like 2 people left in the chat because we're not talking gaming anymore.
There's 10 people still watching.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, congratulations to all you who hung through our ramble.
And I guess we'll have to do the best monsters to eat at some point.
Or how would you prepare this monster?
Yeah, I think that'd be
a fun talk.
An imaginative topic, and there'd be some interesting ideas and recipes.
Is there a way to detoxify slimes and be able to eat them? All right, have a good night, John.
I'm going to call it now. So thank you all for tonight, and I'll see you all again soon. Cheers.
All right, good night.
Good night.